Can you hear me?
We can hear you, and we are live. We are not that late starting. We had some technical issues we were working out, and it worked like a frickin' charm. I am your host, Romeo, and as you may notice, I am no longer industrial. I have joined the technological age. So, without any further ado,
damn time.
Yeah. We will go ahead and start the introductions of this panel for the IAZ Vehicles Chat. Adam, you're the new guy. We'll go ahead and start with you.
Hey, I'm Adam, X, wow. Y5866. 10 years Army. What the heck happened here?
We can still see and hear you.
Okay. It just went all black all of a sudden.
Okay.
So, 10 years Army, joined Zert to continue on with some brotherhood, give my knowledge to the guys who never went in and served, and hopefully to spread that cheer and lovely, wonderful information out in the world.
Awesome. Hopefully you start coming out to some of our events and hangouts and get-togethers and get to know everyone else.
Yeah, well, you know, like I've said in the other some of the posts, it's been one hell of a 2 years. So, but hopefully here shortly I'll be able to be out there.
All right, good deal. Moving on down the list. Pat, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. If you speak, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. My shit just went black too. That was weird. But Pat, I have prior security training, contract security stuff training, and yep, I have some vehicle tactics working with the Secret Service during the 2004 Iowa caucuses. So that's about it. Oh, no military experience here.
All right. Next on the
list. Mike Roleski just being a backup host like usual. Try and keep everybody in line.
All right. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get right into it. This chat is about vehicles, not just your car or your pick-em-up truck, but other vehicles as well. 18-wheelers, airplanes, boats, space shuttles. Maybe, you know, Tesla gets some shit going. They got a car in space already. So,
Space Force.
There you go. So, some of the things to consider about your vehicle. For one is its appearance. What is it saying? Not so much about you, but to other people. So for this, we are looking at what would it say to law enforcement if you get pulled over? What would it say to criminals if they are stalking you? Stalkers if they are stalking you? Things of that nature. Or our ever popular opposition force, which is what we use to describe zombies, foreign invaders, aliens, what have you. So some things to think about with your vehicle's visual nature. For one is its level of cleanliness. Does it match what you are doing? So if you are on a road trip, something to think about, you have your vehicle will be covered in bugs in the front, right? If it's summertime at least. If you're in the Great White North, well, hide in a cave like I do. So those bugs all over the front of your vehicle tell me something as a criminal. You have a lot of electronics in there, especially if you have that sticker with the stick figure family on there and you've got 2, 3, 4 kids on the back. Well, that's 2, 3, 4 pieces of electronic equipment in there at the minimum. So if you go into a restaurant and I want your stuff, break a window, steal a couple bags, run away. So depending on what you were doing on a road trip, example, keep your car clean. Stop, like if I'm just out and about with my car, anytime you guys have seen me coming to Des Moines, it's clean. My plates also have our county in it, not my county that I live in. That's a happy random happenstance. So, on the theory of cleanliness, now up here I live on the gravel roads. So, if I'm driving around town all the time and my vehicle is spotlessly clean, Well, it's a small town. Everyone in town knows me. They know I like to keep my car spotlessly clean. So that's not as big of a deal. But if you have a gravel road car and it's clean all the time, that says something. If it's clean once in a while, that doesn't. So that's another thing to keep in consideration. And as I was talking on the stickers, I know a lot of people have, now we've seen Zert vehicles especially where they have stickers all over them. It was an awesome Humvee thing, by the way. Missed that truck.
Yeah, that was badass, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. You know, you can be overt or you can be covert about things. If you want to be overt about things, you have to keep things in mind. So, for example, like I was saying, the stick figure family, that tells me now regular people, probably not a big concern. If you've got someone like if you're important, like if you're the manager of a bank and you've got that stick figure family that your wife put on the back there with a couple of kids and the dog and all that crap, that tells me if I want money from your bank, I can grab your kids. You're proud of them, obviously. That's something I can use against you. All right. Human traffickers, same thing. They see a back window full of kids. Well, for one thing, leave her alone, man. Come on, seriously. Secondly, there you go. It's a smorgasbord for them. So that's something to consider when you're posting up a whole bunch of pictures of your family, especially on the back of your vehicle in traffic. You're sitting in traffic with a bunch of people who you're trying to impress that you're never going to meet. Well, you're going to end up impressing the wrong person by doing that. Now, another thing to consider is if you have a bunch of Second Amendment stickers on the back of your vehicle. Yeah, you know, we all support the Second Amendment. We all support our rights. That's a good thing. But that tells a criminal, depending on where you're parked, there might be a gun in that vehicle that they can steal. At the very least, you're going to have a broken window or something because of your sticker and someone looking for a gun. And that tells a cop that you could be one of those crazy sovereign citizen types, and they might be looking for a fight when they go up to write you a ticket for doing something dumb.
Or the famous Malone Lib, you know,
Yeah.
the come and take it sticker, which means, hey, that's an easy target. If they don't have a gun, they'll probably have a bug out bag and they're worth valuable shit.
Yep. Anyone else have anything to add at this point?
Your mom's hot.
Thanks. She works out. I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
I'll get it in there before you did. I'm sorry.
honestly, the whole concept behind the stickers, it's like you said, you have your Zert sticker. Not a lot of people in this area know what Zert is, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have rescue, I mean, like your emergency EMT. I've seen a lot of guys down this area actually have the emergency EMT. This way the sheriffs know that if you're
Yep.
speeding, you're probably going on the call that just came over the radio.
They'll still pull you over.
They'll still pull you over, correct. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it. But I'm saying, like, the guys over in Wilton, the guys over in Nichols, the smaller communities that this way they know that, hey, they're probably going on call.
Yeah,
At the same token,
in smaller communities, they will likely know you more and know your vehicle. So
I 100% agree to that. I mean, I'm on Fruitland Fire and I'm on search and rescue for Mustang County, and I don't have any firefighter stickers on my vehicle, but most of the guys on the PD and the sheriff's office know who I am, so they know my vehicle. But the only thing that my vehicle is I have a combat veteran. I have the combat action badge and Afghan war veteran badge sticker. Now, in my years in the Army, they were like, "Oh, don't have that stuff," especially if you want on base like in Germany, Korea, and Hawaii. Locals in Hawaii hate freaking soldiers. You were a prime target no matter what when you had that stuff on your vehicle. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have like the emergency responder sticker on there, but it's also a hindrance at the same time because you can roll by an accident and be like, I'm not gonna help with that one because you're not really covered. That's a real big gray area. Someone sits there and says, "Well, that vehicle they just took off, they had an EMT sticker on the back of their car and they didn't help." Well, then they're gonna be like, "Well, what the heck?" I mean, it's a huge. The stickers, they're nice and they show off the pride of what you like to do, but there's also a price to pay depending on what the sticker is.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
What my point of the point I was trying to make was, if you have an EMT sticker in the back of your window, how much is your equipment? Generally speaking, I mean, you got the IVs, you got the tourniquets, you got quick clot, you got all that stuff.
Well, in a lot of cases, like I carry that great big bag to our range day, but that's in case something happens at the range day. When I'm cruising around town, that bag is upstairs in my house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't generally keep it in the vehicle. I do have, so like on to the next part that I was going to talk about. I'll jump to it a little bit, but
Romy,
yeah.
Hold on. What I'm saying is I know some of the guys that work at the shop.
Yep.
That are on the EMT and they keep their actual duffel bag in the back of their truck.
Okay.
This way, if they leave the shop and they're on call that night, they already have the radios and everything with them. I'm just trying to use that as an example.
Well, and that's like the people on my crew, we all have, everything is in the 3 trucks that we have, the ambulances. So we generally, if we have something, it's our own personal kits, which some, would have a larger kit and some could have a smaller one. But I know that the people on my crew, we don't really carry much aside from what would be considered a large boo-boo kit. So, but in your case, yeah, some of those guys do carry a lot of equipment with them. But as Adam was saying, we've had these discussions also during one of our trainings. You've got that gray area where if I'm driving by an accident scene and there's already 3 or 4 people out there, it's, well, do I want to stop and help and potentially cause an issue or potentially be the only guy on scene who knows what the hell I'm doing? The other aspect to that is in a massive event, like say a 9/11 event or an apocalyptic event or something like that, if you're driving around with that crap on your car, people are going to flock to you because, hey, he knows stuff, like the military stickers, he was military, he knows stuff, he can protect us. The general population that doesn't know how to take care of itself is going to flock to stuff like that. Just like if you're out in the bug out and you're wearing the camouflage and you got the military looking packs and everything, and you come across some basic people who don't have that kind of gear, they're going to automatically assume you're military even if you're not. And that's another aspect of this, to where the stickers on your truck, if there's some big calamity going on, oh well, he's a paramedic, he knows he can help us, he can save us. So that's going to draw attention to you, which may or may not be a good thing. Maybe you're in a position where you can help 5, 10, 20 people out. Maybe you're in a position where you're in deep shit and you need to get out of there just as bad as they do, So it's always a consideration in that aspect. And in Illinois, you'll be arresting for passing an accident with an EMS badge on your vehicle. Iowa, it doesn't matter. And that's another aspect too in different states. So, which that varies among all 50 of them. I know in Iowa we cannot stop. And I know in Iowa we do have the Good Samaritan laws, but with being actual EMS, it gets a little grayer, as Adam was saying. So it kind of sticks to our scope of practice then, and if we can still get caught, but we still can't. But if we don't stop and actually help the people, then yeah, it doesn't really count against us at all. It's just a personal decision at that point.
You best be on your damn A game when that happens, because you if something happens later on down the road,
yeah,
and they'll take your information and you end up going to court, and if that person somehow you mistreated and you ended up doing something, you moved them the wrong way and you didn't have C-spine the right way, well, you can losing your license because now you ended up screwing that person for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and we had we had a meeting with EMS and at my day job. I'm part-time EMS. My day job was having a CPR class the same day that we were having it at the shed for our training for the month, or But yeah, renewing all our stuff. And during that CPR class, it was, you had your very basic level that they were teaching at work, and you had our medical level at the shed, of course. Well, they're sitting there going over the aspect of dragging someone out, and not even considering, immobilizing the head or something like that if it's that kind of an accident. Just grab them by the arms and drag them. Point of order. But yeah, and that's one of those things where we know it and regular person doesn't, so we can get napped for it. But that's another topic we can spend a lot of time on. So now going into, let's see, that should come out good enough. So the things that you keep in your car for not just you, but for in the event of an accident scene. If you're going to keep some kind of a medical kit or boo-boo kit, make sure you have gloves because you don't know those people. But like in my car, I have a light, I have basic tire repair stuff, I have a blanket. I live in a cold climate, so that's a good thing to have no matter what. I have a little bit of spare water, maps and atlases, things of that nature. Some other good things to have in there, like charger for your phone, jumper cables. Let's see.
The butt for?
What?
The butt for?
The Buckport.
For pooping, silly.
Oh, having some extra butt wipe is not a bad idea because I keep extra butt wipe in my work truck. I mean, you never know, and I'm out in wooded areas. So
yeah, and with the kids, if you have kids, extra, baby wipes or the diapers or just anything like that too.
yeah. So, anyone have anything else that they keep in their vehicle on a regular?
Hazard flares or hazard markers.
That's a good one, yeah.
I don't know. I usually keep a gun or rifle in my my vehicle, and I take it in and out of the house every day. So long.
So while Pat's at work and we're on live,
yeah,
across the United States,
it wouldn't help
truck's
you
going to be
anyways.
gone.
It wouldn't help you anyways because it's locked up and everything. So not the vehicle's locked up, but I also keep it chained to the vehicle.
So it'd be a little harder to get out of the parking lot at work, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Plus our parking lots got a 24-hour surveillance system on it that we actually have 2 people monitoring the surveillance cameras, and it's also patrolled by the Polk County Sheriff's Department.
My truck, I have just one. I have one tote box in the back, and that carries all my rescue gear for search and rescue. I have a throw bag, life vest. I have my urban helmet, and then I have a Swiftwater helmet. I have fins. I have water shoes. Soon we'll have a water suit. And then I have a stash of ammo, along with my place where my pistola goes. Long gun. Nah, I don't have a long gun in there, but got a nice special forces medical kit. I have that in there along with your basic jumper cables. I don't have the flares. I bought the LED round road flares. They run super bright. They work a hell of a lot better. And then you don't have a chance of burning yourself when you're trying to set it off, because sometimes you can pull that sucker and you might be doing the wrong way and paying attention to cars. You can burn yourself. I have those in there. Blankets during the wintertime, I switch those out in summer or spring. But I do have a pack that I have for summer and winter, and I throw them in and out, interchange them, so everything stays fresh. Keep an e-tool. Sorry, CIF, I kept that. You can charge me later if you can find me.
Yeah, and that's another good one, especially in our climate, having some kind of a shovel or something like that. Another thing that I keep in mind in the glove box and in the trunk, I have two ponchos actually. I have like a heavier duty kind of a military poncho, and then I have the cheap, easy yellow, orange kind of a like you can buy at Walmart for like $5, or if you're changing a spare tire on the side of the road. I'd rather have that bright yellow thing on than the camouflage one, you know. So another thing to consider. Yeah, and
I've actually had a makeshift high vis panel for air care.
yeah.
Also in there.
And in the comments, there was another good comment about having a fire extinguisher on board. That's a good idea to have too.
Only used to prevent forest fires.
Yep. And then, yeah, the rechargeable jump starter. I actually, one of the secretaries at work, I borrowed hers one day. She has one of those mini jump packs. So, and it was very small size, easy to throw into. I mean, you could put a small tote or something in your trunk with some of this stuff in it, and you're good to go. So, yeah. I do have a knife in mine. I mean, a lot of you saw where I had it in my old pickup truck. I just moved it to a similar spot in the car, made it blend in a little more. But that's if I'm driving around and I actually have the windows down in the city, which I don't do very often, and someone tries to reach in and grab me, then that's a poke, poke, poke for them. But, you know, it's quick, easy, and something to get at.
Window punch hammer, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep a seatbelt cutter on me, or right next to on my door panel.
And if so, the remote charger, it apparently also works well on nipples for interrogations. So should you need to do a makeshift interrogation while on the side of the road, what the fuck did you do with my spare? So keep that in mind.
Well, you got sponges too? You're just gonna sit there and hit sponges on them too? Like,
I don't know. We'll have to have you on a chat one of these days and have you explain that, Wes. All right. So some other things that you normally would keep in your vehicle, like your registration, your proof of insurance. That's something where depending on shop rags. That's something to where if your car gets broken into, criminal can get your identity off of that. So I usually keep mine in the vehicle anyways, but in some cases, if you're going into an area that's had a lot of break-ins, things of that nature, not a bad idea to take that out, stick that in your pocket, in your purse, in your whatever. Some things to not keep in your car would be receipts. Some of those, I don't think it happens very much anymore, but you could still get a receipt that has your full credit card and information on it. And that's bad because identity theft is actually one of the more popular ways of stealing from you now. I mean, we actually just installed surveillance cameras in a guy's shop where they've tried breaking into a safe 3 or 4 times. I mean, I can see pry marks all around the door. It's an awesome safe. It's done its job, but the only thing he keeps in there is account information for all the people who buy from him. And that's what they want. They haven't gone after the money. They've gone after that account information. So anytime that you're going through stuff in your car, you get that receipt or something, well, there you go. So I actually know people who keep their registration in their wallet. So the registration, proof of insurance, license, that's all in the same place in their wallet. They don't keep that in there. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have, hang on a second.
Even since we're in the digital world, you can have a digital registration on your phone along with your insurance too.
Because I had an incident where I got pulled over and I didn't have my stuff yet, but I still had that thing from whatever company it was that emails it to you. And I was like, look, see, this is all I got yet. And they could see the date was like a day ago. Well, why didn't you print it? I'm not that smart. I don't have a printer. Leave me alone. So, yeah. Another thing is like my car has a built-in GPS, but if you have a GPS that you can take out of the vehicle, if you're going somewhere, especially in those bad neighborhoods where you have this big piece of electronic equipment sitting on your windshield, take that fucker down, put it in your pocket, put it in your purse, put it in your whatever. If nothing else, stash it in the car somewhere so it looks like you took it with you. Because that has a lot of pertinent information, like if you've gone to a couple friends' places, if you've gone to this bank or that bank, but a lot of those have where you can program in your home. Don't program in your actual home. I know when I get into my area, like if I'm 2 or 3 towns that way, I know how to get home from there. So my home on my GPS is along my route to get home from where I normally come from, but it's not my actual house. It's a random business in town. Do something like that. Don't sit in your driveway and hit, oh, there's my home, because if someone steals your car, guess where they're going to go if they want to. If someone steals your GPS, well, they had some nice stuff in that car. Let's see what they got in their house too. So that's something to consider.
Those garage remotes. That's another one. I know it's a big deal a few years back where they were actually able to reprogram the garage remote just by grabbing the one that you had up on dash. Now they have your address and your garage remote. 9 times out of 10, people don't lock that garage door to the house. So that's the easiest access point you got.
Yeah.
Even leaving things in your car, and I know, forgive me, but I just forgot your name again. But Shaggy DA over here, that lives here in Muscatine, he hears all about the it's. I mean, I got short-term memory hit sometimes. In Davenport, people are walking into the gas stations in Davenport, and they're getting their cars taken, just like that. And every night you're hearing on the news, a group of teenagers took a car for a joyride, and then they got onto a chase with the police. I think this past winter, or this past year, I think there was like over 400 or 500 cars stolen. And one of them happened to be a recruiter of mine that I know from the Army. Oh, hush it. You don't get to talk. Shut up. Sorry, Duke wanted to talk. Excuse me.
He's going to talk.
So, actually, his car got stolen, and he put it out on Facebook, and I was listening to the radio, and I called him. I go, hey, man, I think they found your car. And he says, yeah, I'm right behind it. I'm the one that called it in. And so, like, I'm giving him updates on where they're finding this car at, because he was on to find him. But his wife left the keys in the ignition, forgot them because she had a long day at work, and they came in and took the car.
Yeah.
Always make sure, even if you go into a gas station or you go to a rest stop, yeah, it might be hot. Like, we're coming up on the hot season. Shut the car off. Take the keys with you. If you have the one where the car has to have the fob next to it, they're getting pretty fancy with this anti-theft stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if your car has to run with the key in the ignition, then take it out. You'll cool down in a little bit.
Yeah. So mine, like my old truck, my S10, my overland truck, I actually cut the key on it so that I could leave it run, but I could pull all the rest of the keys off and still lock the truck, which still not the best way to do it if you're leaving it run, like if you're running to the gas station when it's ass cold out. But it's one other aspect where it looks like it could be on a remote start or something like that. And like with my car currently, it's push button start key fob, but I'll get to the store, I can push the button, and if I'm going to be in there for a minute, but I want to let the car run still, hit the remote start. It's that quick and easy. But if I leave it run, because I know some of them, I've had one of the guys I work with, actually, he drove the car all the way over into the neighboring town after, his wife went out and started it, but she brought the key fob back in with her. He was able to drive it over into the next town, turn the car off, and went to get back in the car and realized she still had the keys. So he couldn't restart the car. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you have a push button key fob thing, because I pulled down my driveway and almost did the same goddamn thing. I realized it towards the end of my driveway. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't have my keys. So that's something to consider too. Even if you've got the key fob on you, they can still drive away with your shit. So, moving on. Now, we've got our visuals taken care of. We've got the stuff in our car that we need in our car and everything else out. Some other aspects of your vehicle are the tactics in which you use it. So there are a couple of different ones, one of which would be a convoy, but one of which would be is if you are or think you are under surveillance. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually been under surveillance, but there are a couple of different ways that they do this. One is covert, where they'll use a team of people, several different vehicles, and they'll do what's called a leapfrog, where you'll see a car behind you for a while, and then they'll turn off, the next car will turn on. You might have seen it in movies and TV and stuff like that. That's typically how that's done. You're not going to really pick up on that as much, but there are ways you can. The other way is overt. Overt is fun because they will park down at the bottom of your hill in a marked cop car or a obvious unmarked, and they will just follow your ass around with that one car. They're trying to force your hand in that case, or like in my case, hypothetically, I was hanging out with some people who might have played with motorcycles in a certain way that certain authority figures didn't like, and they were trying to see if they could scare me or if they could get to talk to me or something like that. I'm assuming, hypothetically. It was just kind of a death by association, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of have some fun with it. So when you're out driving around, you need to establish, I've talked about this before, I believe, in another chat, but you need to establish a pattern of normal kind of trips around town. So like I'd leave the house and okay, another good example, a process server, another person who could, and stalkers, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't have to be cops or FBI or CIA or anything like that. You've got process servers, you've got some shady bastards could want to snatch you or grab you or something like that. Human trafficking is a big thing now. They could be doing surveillance on you for that. So, and they could be working in teams also, especially down south of the border, because a lot of those people are former federales or military for them, and they have been trained. So that's a lot of things to keep in mind. Now, with this pattern of life that you establish, leave the house, I'd go to the bank. My bank, lots of glass on the front, so I could observe everything going on behind me through that glass. So if a car pulled down the street, and let's say, just hypothetically, it was a Ford Bronco, okay? Nice old school white Ford Bronco goes pulling down the street.
Oh, really? O.J. Simpson's going to follow you?
Yep, I'm going with that one, okay? So...
As he's trying to get to, the glove clearly does not fit.
Then you must have quit. Well, if Chewbacca was a Wookiee. So anyway, going to the bank, I do whatever business I want to do at the bank. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a required thing. You could walk into your bank and say, yeah, I need 20 bucks cash. If this is part of your normal routine that you could hop onto at any point. So if you were at the grocery store and you said, hey, you know what? That fucking white Bronco has been behind me 3 times today. I wonder if I'm being tailed. Fuck it. Let's put into this path of life because I already I'm in this area. I can set this up quick. So then you go to the bank. If you don't need to go there, walk in. I need 20 bucks out of my account. Hey, could you tell me what my balance is in the checking account here? Or, you know, you can do anything in there. Doesn't matter. Now, after that, go leave. Say you run to a gas station, okay? That's your next stop. Gas stations, another one. A lot of them have lots of windows out front. So you can pull in and off you go. Get gas, no matter what. Because for me, especially if I'm on the road, a quarter tank down is empty. Not a quarter tank left, a quarter tank down. If I have 3/4 of a tank of gas, I'm stopping for fuel, all right? Even if you need $2 in gas, stand there at the pump. Look like you're messing with your phone, but keep your eyes up so that you can scan around. Because if you're sitting here staring at your car with the gas pump in it, and you've got your phone in your hand like this, okay, another thing you can do, you can look behind you because the screens are reflective, all right? See what's going on behind you while you're scanning around looking for that Bronco. Like, okay, I don't see, well, fuck, there it is over in that parking lot, okay? Now you can also go in, pay for your gas, all $2 of it if that's what you need. Pick up a candy bar, pick up a pack of smokes, whatever. You don't even have to stop for gas. It's just a good idea, especially if you're down a little bit. Go ahead and fill up. Gives you time to stand there at the pump and just screw off and look around. And then after that, swing by the grocery store, pick up a couple of things. You know, it's simple, easy, 4 or 5 different tasks that you can put in a row to where you have different areas of town you can go through. And in some cases, you can do little tricks. Like the thing, if you think you're being surveilled, don't drive erratically. Don't stare in your rear view mirror the whole time. Glance at your mirrors just like you normally would. Drive normal, right? If you're normally a cautious driver at the speed limit, you don't take any risks, drive like that. If you drive like you're evil fucking Knievel, drive like you're evil fucking Knievel. If they've been following you for the last 2-3 weeks and you start doing something different because you've just seen them today, well, then they're going to realize that they've been made. And that's going to do any number of things. If they're a stalker, they're going to try and grab you. If they're, you know, that can go any number of ways. So one of the things that you can do is, so for example, you're going to the bank, then you go to that gas station. Drive like an idiot, okay? One trick is to signal like you're going to make a left-hand turn if you don't have a turn lane. If you have a turn lane, then you're going to have to use it. But signal like you're going to make a turn left and then make a turn right. Just like, oh, I'm a dumbass. I hit the lever the wrong way. Whoop-de-doo. Pay attention to those cars behind you, especially that white Bronco. If you see it turn on its left turn signal when yours is on, and then you turn right, and oh, what do you know? It turned right. There's a clue. Okay. Another thing you can do, whip a Yui. If you're going to that gas station, make it look like, oh, fuck, I forgot the gas station. Turn your car around somewhere. Turn it around to where you're on a long enough stretch of street where you can see other people turn around in your rear view mirrors after you've gone through. And if you're going through, one of the main things to keep in mind is wear sunglasses. If you're not, glance at the vehicle to see if they're looking at you. Don't turn your head and look at them. If you glance with your eyes on your sunglasses, they won't see it, and you're just driving innocuously. But if you're like, oh, fuck, they just seen me, and they drive away or they do whatever they're going to do. Anyone have anything to add at this point?
No.
No? Okay.
I think if you're being followed, you have to stay as calm as possible. I mean, and if you find a place you can ditch them, like Romeo says, you know, ditch them as best you can. But when you do, put some distance between them and figure out, you know, and kind of hide and figure out where they're at and see where they're coming from, and try to get the information you can about that vehicle and the person who might be driving it. You know, if you can, if it's, you know, a male or a female.
Oh, dogs are awesome.
If it's male or female, you know, things like that. And then and if it really bugs you, then report it to law enforcement. Or, you know, if you have hands free, call law enforcement and be like, hey, this vehicle's been following me. This is where I'm at. They can either ping your cell phone, even if you have OnStar and you're in no cell service, use your OnStar. They'll get somebody to you.
Yep. And that's another aspect of that too, is it one person or is it two? Because a lot of surveillance teams work in pairs. They'll have, so you'll have a guy in the car, and a lot of us are in the habit of, we'll hold our phone up to our ear, or if we're using a radio, we'll take it up to our mouth.
Okay.
All right. They will sit there and actually keep it below the plane of view. So if they're talking on the radio to, say, there's a second car or something like that, then they'll be sitting here having this conversation with the device down here at the bottom. The other person in the car will sit there like they're having a conversation with them after the fact. So if someone is observing them, it's just going to look innocuous. Like, oh, two guys in the car having a conversation. When in reality, he's sitting there saying, you know, this car here just did this, he just did this, he just did this. Over, click. This guy will say some innocuous bullshit. So, or they might have pertinent communication back and forth, be like, oh, I just saw him do this too, you know. So that's something else to consider when you're dealing with that. And yeah, if regardless of what the vehicle is, even if it is, you think it's the police following you to survey you for some reason, you know, or if you think it's a stalker, or if it's OJ and his fucking white Bronco, call the cops. Keep your phone down unless it's tied into your car. If it's tied into your car, then let your buddy know that your grandparents are in the car with you. You know, things like that. And yes, Pat, that was a quip at you.
I know. I'm ignoring you.
Yeah, I'm used to it. So, let me catch up in the comments quick. Okay, yeah, there's nothing new there. Followed you once for 3 days and you never knew it. Maybe I did. Maybe I did. I just like the attention. All right. So let's see here. Where are we at on my list? Yeah, but those normal patterns of life, they can be whatever is most convenient for you in your area. So in the city, it's easy. You can have 14 different businesses that you go to throughout the course of the day. In my area, there's a couple small shops in this town, a couple small shops in this town. It's just picking and choosing what would you normally do? What would look normal? That's the main thing. And what would you be able to observe other people following you doing? So one way that you can also detect if something is going on, if someone is following you, is to make 3 consecutive turns. So like in my area, small town, okay? If you're driving down Main Street and you think someone's been following you since 2 or 3 towns ago, maybe they are because, you know, there's only a few different places for people to go. But if they're specifically following you, make a left turn. Go around the block, basically, like you're looking for a parking spot. They follow you up one way, they follow you the other. If they follow you on that 3rd turn, that's something you should probably keep in mind. Go ahead and pull in and park, do whatever you're going to do. But that's one way to help detect a tail. Another way is if you want to lose them and if they are working in a team, stair step. One of the reasons why I keep the GPS going when I'm in town, in the city or something like that, is so I can see the area around me. So if I see a neighborhood to where I can, you know, make a right turn, make a left turn, make a right turn, make a left turn, do that 3 or 4 times, that will throw them off. Very, 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 very rarely would anyone ever need to follow you like that. You can pull over and confront them if you want, but it depends on the situation. Everything is situationally dependent. If you think it's just some random creepy dude, yeah, pull him over, rip him out of the car, beat the shit out of him. Of course, if that random creepy dude was like, "Here, you left your purse, I'm sorry." Well, you know, I mean, it could be anything.
It's a satchel.
Satchel. There you go. Yep. If you have a MERS. Use construction work to your advantage. Elaborate, please. It could be like road construction, something like that. Yeah, definitely know your town, know your area. And that's a big thing. Like when I used to live in the city, I had several different patterns of life. I had several different ways that I could leave my house, all with a vehicle or on foot. And I had patterns of life that I had established on foot because a few blocks up from me was an area with a bunch of shopping and library and stuff like that. So, you know, if you felt like you needed to leave the house for some reason because you were being watched, well, normal pattern of life, walk up the street, hit the library, hit the coffee shop on the corner, all that shit. Yep, street closed, use alley, side streets, etc. Don't follow the detours. Yeah, exactly. And that goes along with having your GPS open. So if I come into an area where, you know, you've got a bottleneck of construction and you're in a hurry and you want to get to where you're going, well, you can see there's, okay, this side on my left or on my right, shut up. On my right, all this area is open neighborhood, but on my left, it's all, you know, those goofy streets that curve around like cul-de-sacs do. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut around through this neighborhood. So quick, easy way, you make the wrong turn going left, you're lost in suburbia hell. You make the right turn going right, and you found your quick, easy way around a shitload of construction, car accident, you know, bank robbery, whatever's going on.
Michael Bell says he would like to join the chat, but he can't.
Okay. Pat, you want to work with him on that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
It's a video of running an iPad and a phone all at one time.
All right. I am going to throw up a picture real quick. This one is a personal thing for me. Let This is how I do this. So, best figure I could find when you're, oh, wait a minute, wrong button. I'm new, fuck off. Okay, that should have me set permanent, does it? Someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how they teach, in trucking school too.
Yep. So normally people have this overlap section in their mirrors right here, to where you have your rear view mirror here in the black, and then this blue color right here, you have your standard, this F2, which looks similar to this, okay? The way I run my mirrors is more like 3 and 4 here, to where there's no overlap, to where there's a minimal blind spot right here, but it opens up all of this area over here. It fucks a lot of people up, especially if they're using my work truck or something, because I do the same with it. But at the same time, it helps me. Let me unshare that shit. Okay. But at the same time, it helps me to where I can see more of what's going on around me. So something to try if you feel the urge.
Yeah, now there is your like blind spots that you won't see, and the biggest thing is you don't need to have your mirrors turned in to where you're looking down and all you see is your vehicle.
Yeah.
All you need to see is the slightest bit of your vehicle and then everything out away. That way when you turn, or you could see so many more vehicles that way.
Yep. And like with mine,
driving semis or cars, how many people turn their mirrors in to where they see barely anything and all they can see is their car. It's like, yeah, you have a nice car, or you may think that, but you need to see other people, and that's how accidents happen. But you can also see if you're being tailed that way a lot more too.
well, and as far as if you're driving on a busy, like if you're down 235, people, 1 second they're here, the next second they're here because they're doing 95 miles an hour and you're doing, 75, even though speed limit's 55 on there. So by having that turned out more, if I want to see down the side of my car in order to back up, I shift my head a little bit this way or this way, and that shifts me into the plane where I can see that little sliver. But if I'm driving normally, I can see my rear view, I can see way out either side of me. So just by glancing out here, looking at my mirror, I can also see that blind spot that the mirror doesn't cover, instead of having to turn my head completely around, looking out basically the back window of the car. So that's another reason why I keep them wider like that, is to eliminate all that open blind spot. So if I'm going to change lanes, I can see more. And that way I don't have to move my head as much.
For keeping your sight on everything, I mean, for me, it just comes to second nature because I was a gunner in my truck. So pretty much everything from mid chest on up was stuck out in the open, riding with the wind in my face. And so we're doing that for 9.5 months. And a lot of people hate driving with me because I'm always scanning. I'm always scanning my mirrors. I'm always scanning ahead of me. I'm wondering if that, the overpass might have something hanging out the bottom. I'm looking at trash. It's a blessing and it's a curse all at the same time, because I notice things out of nowhere. For instance, I was riding with the sheriff's deputy, a friend of mine, and we're cruising, highway speed up 61 north, and we get by this road, and I look over and I see this car that's on the other side of the highway. And I noticed, by the time I saw the car, I already noticed that the windshield was spidered out and the people were fighting. And I said, hey, those people are fighting in that car. He goes, what? I said, yeah, they're fighting in that car. And he goes, how do you know? I said, dude, they're fighting in that car. And we pulled over there, and he pulled up, and sure enough, they were having a domestic dispute inside. And granted, it turned out, that it was a husband and wife having an issue of a lost child. but you get yourself trained up so well on doing those things, you'll end up seeing things that some people won't see, and you might freak them out. But seeing those things in a split second at a fast rate will end up saving your life. I may swerve at the trash. I may haul ass underneath an overbridge, but I've been in a position where that trash can go boom, or there could be a wire hanging down from that overpass and take your ass out. But being always aware of your surroundings, situational awareness is a key thing, especially driving. Not only for the idiot drivers, but for people who may be following you or trying to catch up to you. Or you could be jamming out and you know, listening to whatever you're listening to, and all of a sudden you just look up and then you realize for the last 2 miles that you've been jamming out, a squad car's been trying to get around you. Because sometimes those sirens are not very, very loud.
Yeah.
But and have hands free. Like anytime I get my truck, my hands free is already connected to my phone. I don't have to worry about dicking with it unless somebody calls, and I just press a button on my steering wheel.
Yeah, that's what I like about my semi is it's got a Bluetooth connection. So I just hook everything up to the Bluetooth to the semi, and then it's all hands free. So
Unless you're sitting in the yard waiting to get filled, huh?
yeah, exactly. Then I grab my phone and I check the updates and shit because you're parked, you're sitting, and you could be sitting for hours. So yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot, I remembered I just had it. But another good thing to have in your vehicle, especially if you live in the Midwest area, just anywhere, is having one of these. And if you don't know what this is the emergency response book, but it tells everything, guidelines on every placard, especially if you do a lot of highway driving. Like for me, I have one in my truck because I go all the way down to Texas. But it will tell you what is on that truck and if it's bad or good. It's a really good piece of knowledge to have. I mean, I know Pat already knows those in the back of his mind, but to a common person who may not know, having one of these, and you can pick them up online. It's not just one state thing; it's all over. It's the National Traffic Safety Bureau.
Yeah, DOT.
DOT.
Yeah,
So
your hazmat.
Yep.
That's good advice.
Adam, can you hold that up just in case people didn't actually see it? Because you're kind of fading in and out. You're kind of blurry. Just so we have it.
Pull it back just a little bit.
Okay.
Like right there.
Just this way people can actually see what we're talking about and get a better understanding. Because actually you can pick them books up at like the truck stops, and some visitor centers have them. Because I seen them when we were going up to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They actually carry those kind of books.
You're not picking them up off of Amazon too, and I think they're only like $2-3.
Yeah, they ain't that much, and they are very valuable to have because I know, like we have, I know in the old truck, I don't know about in the two new ones, but I know we have binoculars for, if we're rolling up on a scene that is possible hazmat, we can pull up and we can look through those binoculars, see the placards and see, should we be there? Should we not? Do we have to call in hazmat from wherever they come from to secure the scene first, things of that nature. So yeah, it's good to have.
I think it was in Tennessee or was it Tennessee? I can't remember where it was offhand. I'll have to find the link again, but there was an anhydrous truck that tipped over and they had to clear out like a 1.5 mile radius for it, and it showed the fog, and the fog it looked like something from Silent Hill, just anhydrous ammonia fog, just covered. Out. It was ridiculous. It was a fully loaded tanker, but you don't know what it is, and you walk into that, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my skin's burning off. Well.
Especially this time of year because they're out all over dragging that stuff around, especially in rural areas like this.
Nah, not a lot of people know the danger of anhydrous ammonia. I mean, that shit is like when we were doing a low-level security at this place in Des Moines called Chemin Industries. They make food products and work with GMOs and other stuff like that. And they had, I think back in 2003, they had a chemical line filled with anhydrous ammonia burst. And that was crazy because, I mean, the alarm went off. We had like a minute to get our masks on and our suits and try to rescue people. I mean, it was literally insane because the building has chemical foam that just goes off in case of a chemical accident like that and seals up everything, and it foam hardens like concrete in just seconds. So
Yep.
yeah, it was really insane. Gladly nobody got hurt that night, you know, and we all made it out good, and so did some of the employees. So it was all pretty interesting to find out exactly what kind of chemicals do what. You know, like some chemicals can burn and eat right through rubber. Others, you know, can't, you know, and stuff like that. So
I mean, there's so many things in today that we carry in our car, not only just in semis, but in cars and pickups that, you know, that can seriously mess you up breathing it in or just even touching it. I know we had a car fire out here that was paged out to. We were paged out to 2 weeks ago, and the car looked shady as hell. And when we got back in the truck, I was like, man, I sure hope to God they were not shaking and baking in that car. I was like, God dang, because I mean, it looked like a meth head car, and I was just like, well, I mean, you know, I've never seen a car go down a 40-foot grass ditch and be fully engulfed by the time we get there, to where, I mean, it burnt so hot that it melted the license plates off. It was scorched. And I'm just like, man, I hope. I mean, I walked into work the next day. I walked right into the ER and I said, I want you to test me for methamphetamine. And she looked at me, the nurse looked at me, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I am just making sure that this car is not a meth car because I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be tweaking on that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Well,
then,
unfortunately, with that situation, you also got to consider the area we live in. And Mike, you might want to explain that a little bit, or Adam, you might want to explain that.
So, in our area, in Muscatine, we have a huge farming community, just like anywhere else in Iowa. But we have a lot of anhydrous areas, kind of like a gas station for farmers. They can come up and they can fill in their anhydrous ammonia. For a while there, a couple of years back, we had a lot of anhydrous thefts that happened. In the last year or two, we have this thing called Take and Bake, where they can just take a regular bottle, and they take all the Sudafed and everything else like that, and they'll take the anhydrous and they cut it faster in the bottle. About 3 years ago, we had a wreck on the other side of the bridge where a group of folks were falling and they were making meth in a 1 liter new bottle. They hit the gravel and rolled and then exploded all over them, which then caused a mass casualty decon that ended up getting brought into my place of work where we had to decon them. Even with that, like, they got deconned at the scene, but then they also got deconned at the hospital because you can't, it still can be there. the remnants of methamphetamine and hydrous and all the other chemicals they mix in there can still be on that person even if they've already done one decontamination. They're putting bleach, Drano, anhydrous, Sudafed, battery acid, lighter fluid, everything else to cut down and break these acids and everything else like that to get rock form. And it's highly flammable and highly dangerous if inhaled or touched contact.
Adam, the wrong part.
What one?
I was just saying is you might want to give a little back history into Muscatine in regards to we've had the increase in the methamphetamines, at least the production, especially in smaller scale, just here in Muscatine alone. That's why you would be more apt to seeing something like that compared to like Romy out in the rural. I'm not saying he wouldn't see it. I'm just saying is the reason we would see it more.
Because we've had an instance, I don't remember when they said it happened, but someone basically cut a hole in the side of, like a fucking hole in the side of one of those tanker cars that they pull behind their pickup trucks and got a bunch of anhydrous that way. So that's definitely a consideration anywhere, especially out in traffic, especially if they're doing, if someone's parked on the side of the road trying to make that shit in their car and you get a boom and you're driving by it, happen to be at the same time when they go boom. Right?
We had it in the middle of our dang Walmart, man. I kid you not, dude walked in our Walmart, bought all the shit and sat there in the car. He was just shaking and baking in Walmart. Cop walked up there and was like, "What are you doing?" And he realized what was going on. He's like, "Oh shit!" He backed up real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody had to get their car washed and everything else.
Just keep an eye on your surroundings. You see some guy in Walmart picking up a bunch of the shit that you'd use to make that. Well, we should probably just leave. I mean, it's one of those things. Now, moving on. So, kind of on that subject, though, if you are going to be moving around in traffic, things of that nature, and like when I moved up here, okay, I used to have a lot more guns than I do now. We basically put all my guns and ammo into my S10, and when it was initially moving through traffic, my truck was sitting like this because the back end was full of ammo. Now, afterwards, I moved into the shop up here. My office was basically my bedroom. I outfitted my truck for overlanding for more extreme work, and I also put payload springs in it. We once again loaded up all my guns and ammo in the truck to move to the house I'm in now, and it went from slightly raked to level. So people who are smuggling things, or should you need to, like say there's an opposition force, all right? Say the Russians have come over and they've invaded. Well, we need to get a bunch of guns and ammo to our brothers in Omaha. Well, what are you going to do? Right? You can't go driving around in an S10 with the ass end dragon full of guns and ammo because that just doesn't fucking work. That's obvious. So the one thing something you need to keep in mind, keep laughing. So something you need to keep in mind, you've got weight distribution for one, which minivans, especially Chrysler Town and Countries, really awesome stow and go seats, giant cargo capacity areas to where if someone is looking in, they can't see. You also have privacy glass on minivans to where just driving by, you won't see anything. That's one of those cases where you do want those family stickers because you want to give that family appearance. So that way, if you have your opposition force staring at your vehicle, you've got it outfitted with payload capacity of some kind, whether it's air shocks or air springs, something like that to help lift up with all the weight. That's something to keep in mind. And then that goes into convoy tactics because you'd want to have some kind of security in front of and behind that. So I have a notebook of info that is very sparse. I'm going to go over what little bit I have in here, and then Bailey, I'm just going to let you kind of take it over and fill in the blanks. So you basically have a goal, right? We want to get from point A to point B with these vehicles. Like in the case that we had a couple years ago, we were going down to Missouri for our land nav class, multiple vehicles, all right? What is the most likely thing that will happen to us? The worst case scenario, right? Flat tire, broken down car accident, something like that. Those are your most likely scenarios. Not so much a bunch of Russian Spetsnaz guys coming out and trying to kidnap you or shoot at you. So you have to use reality when you're looking at these situations. Now, what are you going to do in those cases? So if you have a flat tire, if you have a flat tire and you have, the people behind you just disappear, what kind of communications do you have available? Do you have two-way radios? Do you have cell phones? Are you in an area with no cell service? Right? Those are some other considerations. What is the most dangerous thing that could happen to you on the road while you're moving in your group of vehicles? Yeah, maintenance, another big thing on vehicles. Make sure it's maintained, especially in a convoy.
Well, even if you vehicle breaks down and you change a flat tire, you're open on the side of the road. You could be struck by a car.
Yeah.
Someone pulls up behind you and sees an easy target, and I mean, that shit's happened overseas many times, People just roll up behind you and you don't even fucking realize it because all the traffic's flowing and they just pop you and then take your shit. It's like they are Negan.
All right. Anything to add at this point, Bailey?
So normally, if we're gonna do, if we plan on doing more convoy things, I think to really get down to the nitty gritty, we're gonna have to sit a lot of this down and break it down. But you're gonna have to have a leader in the front, and you have to have somebody in the back that has been in convoy situations many of times. You're gonna have to practice your roles of what's gonna happen. This person does this person does that person does this. And if we're out in the middle of nowhere and if we're just going to training, it's good to practice. Let's say we ended up going to Missouri, Nebraska, or whatever, and we do break down. Have people that are going to be, people in the truck ready to go in the driver's seat. Have about 2 or 3 people kind of standing around watching the vehicles, watching the other vehicles, and have 2 people who are mechanically inclined getting that tire done like NASCAR. The faster you're broke down, the faster that you get the breakdown fixed, the faster you're going to be back on the road and less likely to be sitting stagnant. I know from experience, got called for an emergency call out. We had a fob getting hit. We were on the road. All of a sudden, we were coming back. Truck went dead. Literally, our MRAP just fucking died. Immediately, I jumped up out of the hatch. Another guy jumped up on my gun. I jumped in the back, removed what I thought maybe it might have been the battery, removed the battery case, realized that the dumbass friggin' mechanic didn't tighten down the battery cable. So immediately I knew where the tools were at. I grabbed the tools and I started wrenching down. As I was wrenching down, all of a sudden you heard that little familiar crack over your head. And I really started wrenching down. And me worrying more about that, even though we had security being pulled, I hit the side of the truck along with the battery, and I got Craftsman tattooed on my hand and a burn mark. So you got to learn to keep your cool when you're trying to fix things so you don't make mistakes like getting yourself injured, like getting an electrical burn from a battery. But you establish jobs of what you're going to do, even if it's with a family. Establish jobs, what you're going to do, just to be more tactically sound of what's going on. I mean, you don't have to stand out there, with your, have your wife standing out there with your AR sitting there posting up on you while you're sitting there changing the tire. Be discreet. And if people pull up, offer to help, be like, hey, yeah, we got it. Don't worry. Thank you. Continue on about your business. But, make sure you have a list of what you have in the vehicle, and everybody knows where everything's at in each vehicle. In case something catastrophic does happen, the more people who know where everything's at, the better and smoother and faster things will be. Accountability, make sure everybody who's in that vehicle comes back to that vehicle. And if you guys switch up vehicles, talk it up with people who are the convoy commander, we'll just call it that. So they know. So in case something happens, they know which victors they're in.
All right. And that's a great example too. I mean, if you're on the side of the road, you and your wife, you're down there changing the tire. Odds are she carries a gun. If she does, then she's sitting there with her pistol. It's concealed. It's still ready. Someone pulls up, you can just tap you on the shoulder to let you know someone's pulling up. You guys talk to them. Yeah, we're fine. Off they go. Back to work you go. So yeah, that's a great example right there. So then some of the things I had my nephews over this weekend and I made them help me. So let me make sure I'm ready on that. I set up and I played with their Hot Wheels a little bit.
You played with their Hot Wheels?
Yes, I did. We did some very useful things. Okay. All right, so got those ready. I'm gonna go back up, wrong screen. Okay, I'm still new at the screen share thing. I'm working on it. All right.
While you're working on that, how many people have these little bow fingers?
Quite a few of us do, actually.
Do we got the common nerds that can put a fill in and everybody has the same one?
Isaac has actually been set up to program them for us so that we're on frequency-wise. And then I've been on him to get a ham class going so that we can all get our ham licenses and use them properly. But there is also a GMRS license that you can get to use some of the functions on them. So,
yeah.
All right. So the example that I have, a couple of the things I noticed when we were going down south, there was only 2 cars when we were going, but I did 3 just for the example. So the way that I was taught this and the way that I have always done this is lead car number 1 in this example, steers the group. It initiates it, but it does not do the actual steering. Car number 2 is, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many cars there are, they follow along. Car number 3 actually initiates like a lane change for this example. So for this example, you come up on a slow moving vehicle. You want to move your convoy of vehicles over. Car number 1 initiates this by hitting their turn signal. Car number 2 would then also hit their turn signal, so car number 3 knows that we want to get over. And to initiate this, car number 3 would actually make the lane change. By doing this, they block any other traffic from getting in between. So if you have car number 1 instead pulled out and then 2 and 3 followed, you could have a vehicle get into the middle of your convoy of vehicles and break up your chain, which, depending on how traffic flow goes, that could cause issues down the road if that vehicle that zoomed up is all of a sudden going slow. Then you've got your lead car way off in the boonies and 2 and 3 are way back behind. So to continue this, all 3 vehicles would then move around the obstruction, in this case, slow-moving vehicle. And then car number 1, once they're clear, now there would be some kind of communication so that they know all cars are clear. So be it car number 3 does like what truckers do and flashes their headlights. Maybe they call over the radio. Any number of ways that they could signal, hey, we're ready to go. So if you use the headlights, for example, car number 3 flashes their brights quick. Car number 2 flashes their brights. You just run that up the chain. Then car number 1 signals, you all signal, do the same thing in reverse, and you go on your merry way. Now, in the example that I just gave, let's say you have your gap opened up and you have a slow-moving vehicle that gets in your way and cuts off your crew. Car number one starts to decelerate. Car number one would then force that person to go around them, getting the group back together. Okay? So that's how that works.
I couldn't be more proud of you.
Thank you. I work out. Okay, are we back to normal now?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so just a little thing that I threw together to kind of help visualize what I was talking about before we got into that in depth. So in that example, car number one basically steers your group, but it does not actually initiate the movements. Car number three is what initiates the movements, whatever your last vehicle is. And that's primarily so that you can move that entire convoy as a group. So when you're driving like that, car number one needs to regard everyone behind them as a trailer. Because I've had issues with this to where car number one stops at a stop sign, you have to turn left, or you have to go forward or something like that. They go ahead and go, and then the cars behind them have people pile in, and then you got to try and all get back together again. Whereas if you're at a stoplight, or a stop sign, if you're at a stoplight and you're the lead vehicle and it goes to yellow, plan on stopping. Because depending on how many vehicles there are behind you, they won't all be able to make that light. If you're turning, make sure there's a gap big enough for all those vehicles. Like I said, regard everyone behind you as being attached to your vehicle as if they are a trailer. Anytime you're driving like this, and I'm sure Adam can second this, the driver is just a driver. That's all he does. He controls that vehicle. That is his job. Then you have someone riding shotgun, pulling security. You have a navigator, so on and so forth. But that driver just drives. That's his primary concern.
Yeah, the way we were taught was you had a driver that drives, you have a guy up front pulling security, a guy behind you as a navigator, and then another guy in the back as a trunk monkey.
Yep. Yeah.
That work. That's the personal security way. For us, you had the driver, and then front passenger. That's the truck commander. He had the nice little fancy Blue Force tracker system, little computer. Like if you see it on like Generation Kill, where they talk about, fucking Blue Force tracker, and they're showing where everybody's at. The truck commander had that, and then you had one guy. Either if you had a full truck, you had two guys in both passenger seats. If you're a fancy, you had the fancy truck. The guy behind the driver was running the Crow, which is the automated gunner system. Or you just had two dudes that would pull security, and then you had the gunner up top. And the caveat with that, I mean, with that nice little rendition that you worked so hard with, Hot Wheels, which was beautiful.
Thank you.
That definitely works. For us, if you get into a situation like that and you end up getting the gap, you want to at least do a 50-meter gap. If you get into a town area, you want to close that gap up to 25. But depending on the area, like for us, we always had 100 meters because of IEDs. If you get a car in your vehicle, you get a car in your lane. We play by different rules. We just push them out of the way.
Yeah.
Push them out of the way and keep going, haul ass. If they go in the ditch, sorry about your luck. Hope you're okay. Just keep going because, you can't stop.
Yep, and that's another major thing too. That's why I was hoping to get you in here, because we have that totally different background. Because
that whole scenario I just brought out would be perfect if we're in a situation where, this shit did hit the fan and we need to get somewhere.
Yep.
It's fuck everybody else, and it's us for one, and we're going. Because at that point, they're gonna be like, "Oh, hey, they got a shit ton of stuff. We're gonna take it." Oh, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the hell our way, and that's how it's going to happen.
Yep, and that's the perfect example for this, because if we do initiate that call up, you know, if some opposition forces come in and we need to all get together, we're definitely going to be forming convoys out of the separate areas that we're in. So that's information that we need to have, we need to know, we need to have people with that experience running those convoys too. So,
I mean, it'd be sweet if we could put a Blue 4 tracker in our vehicles, but I mean, you get that technology, yeah, that's a dangerous story.
yeah. And Wes can also program radios. So now, any stops that you're making should be pre-planned. So unless it's an emergency, those you can't plan. Those are what you have contingencies for. But if you plan on, you know, we're going on a 400-mile road trip. We know that our vehicles have a 350-mile range, but we don't want to get below, you know, half tank. So that's, say, 200 miles. So in 200 miles, we're stopping here for fuel. We're going to make it a 15-minute stop, 20-minute stop, whatever, and then we're going to be back on the road. And then that also, if you have that vehicle that's broken down and you didn't catch it or didn't get the signal out, or, you know, if you were relying on cell phones and you didn't see them disappear and you're in that bad area, well, then we know, okay, we can stop at this point and wait for you to catch up. And then that's also another scenario too, where if you have someone who's fallen behind for some other reason, okay, well, you have to have it set up to where, you know, what speed are we going to be doing on the way there? Are we going to be doing 5 over, which is pretty much the speed limit throughout the nation? All right, we're going to be doing 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. Well, guess what? We just got separated by a bunch of traffic through construction or through whatever means. Well, then the lead cars are going to slow down to the speed limit, 4 or 5 below, and then that car that's lost can catch up. Or if you're doing the speed limit, they can do that 5 over to catch up to you. So you have one doing 5 below and one doing 5 over. You catch up to each other that way.
Can you guys hear that? It is hailing like a motherfucker out. It's raining and hailing out here where I'm at.
I have
Just started
one.
spit. Yeah, it was wind and I got spit and rain out there when I stepped outside.
Well, Sam put up the comment a little while ago that it was starting to lightning there, so she hopped off. But yeah, it's getting weathery again. Hopefully it's just fucking rain. I'm so tired of snow.
Yeah. I'm done with winter, man. I can't take it no more.
Yep, exactly.
The convoy situation as it is, if you're doing it from a civilian point of view, you also have to know the vehicle. Like Adam's suggesting is push them out of the way. Well, if you got that brand new spanking truck, 3/4 of your front panels are plastic. They're not a Hummer. Unless you go through and beef that thing up and do your due diligence on making sure that front end's going to take that impact.
Well, there's specific ways you can do that without really fucking your vehicle up and get them out of the way. We were taught that over at Blackwater's Range over in Geneseo, Illinois back in the day. So, you know, how to get, you know.
Yeah, but
I'll be right back.
Generally speaking, with your vehicles, with the ones that were used for Secret Service, the front ends are already reinforced, or you have a push bar on the front. What I'm saying is, from my point of view, right? I'm not going to be able to push a car out of the way when I'm sitting here driving an 02 Chevy Cavalier.
You can if your life depends on it, and you know. I mean, if you're in a shit hits the fan, you're not going to give 2 shits about your car. You're just going to try to get to where you need to get alive, you know.
Yeah. Right, but that's not the point I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at you try to engage in a pit maneuver, and the guy already knows what you're doing. He knows how to control it. He just bent your fender in, and now you just slice the tire. Now what you do?
Just
then you do something else. So for a demonstration, I grabbed a couple of my cars off the TV. So one way, simple, just push the rear end. But if you turn your car a little bit when you connect, you can help spin them out. The actual pit maneuver is you hit the quarter panel right in here in front of the tire, and you steer to kick them out of here. But for those of us who drive in the ice, what happens when your car is going like this? Well, you steer into it. That's one way you can counter that pit maneuver, okay? Another aspect is if you run into a roadblock or a barricade of some kind, all right? Yes, you're looking at the bottom of the car, kiss my ass. It's a physics thing. Engine's up here. This is a heavy point. Back here, rear axle, not as heavy. So if you're coming into a barricade, keep your speed, try and stop really close to it or slow down. That way they think you're going to stop, especially if they're hiding behind the car, like getting ready to shoot at you or something. Accelerate, but don't. A lot of times you'll see in the movies where they just crash into the fucking car and it flies and you're done. No. You want to basically accelerate to the point where you're pushing this instead of ramming it. You're going to do, even on a crappy Cavalier, you know, you're going to do some damage to your front corner, but most of that impact, aim for that frame mount where your bumper sits and aim for this rear axle, because this becomes a fulcrum then, and it just hinges on that engine, and you can push that car out of your way.
Even if you're driving down the road and you're gonna get, you know, if you have a vehicle in front of you and you have people in that vehicle with you and you can't pit them, if you know that vehicle per se, for some dumb reason, the vehicle that gets in front of you is a friggin' Sunfire, front wheel drive, have your passenger get out, sit outside of the window, pop that freaking front tire with a gun, shoot that front tire out. It's going to go this way or it's going to go that way. They're going to move out of the way and there's no damage to your vehicle. And it works beautifully.
I love you, Adam.
Their engine out, or you can just shoot them in the head.
Yep. Aim for the driver.
It saves on your vehicle. I mean, there's many of which ways to get a vehicle out of the way. For us, we just rammed them. I mean, of course, granted, yeah, we had big old MATVs, and we had these huge, like, ridiculous cattle guards that could fuck up a camel like there was no tomorrow. No. But
you
I
talk
mean,
like you know that from experience.
And that's all considerations to take in too. I mean, like in my case, with my van, okay?
You plead the fifth.
With my Buick, yeah, I'm not going to want to run someone's truck off the road or something like that. And if I try and do a pit maneuver on a pickup truck bed here, my hood down here, I got to dig in there. I'm going to hit the top of my fenders before I'm going to hit something structural that I could actually push them out of the way with, unless it's lowered. But I'm in a lower car, they're in a higher truck. But in my van, as it sits right now, I have just a heavy, you know, just the basic bumper that comes on it. Depending on what I do, whether I get a winch bumper or whether I get a cattle guard on the front or something like that. The cattle guard I'm looking at, the same one we use on the ambulance. And that's set up to hit a deer at 70 miles an hour and just keep going.
Right.
That is also situationally dependent on how and what you do. But, you know, in that case, if you're up against a truck and you're in a car, you have to come up with some other way of doing it, which in that case, yeah, shoot out their tire, shoot at the driver. If nothing else, if you feel threatened enough that you have to put bullets on them, fucking do it. Judged by 12, carried by 6. That's your choice, but depends on the situation. And if it's, you know, the apocalypse and all you could find was a Cavalier that had the keys in it, and that's what you've got, and you come across someone who's got one of those big SUVs with all the off-roading bumpers and all that shit on it, well, fucking shoot them. And then take their truck.
Take their truck. Jinx, show me a Coke.
I
I
always love how.
Yeah, but that's the point we're trying to make, though, is for the common person, they have to think these situations through.
Yep.
I mean, for us, yeah, it's secondhand nature. It's training. It's cross training. It's the backup plan. But we're also dealing with people that have never had this sort of training.
Well,
So
and that's a
trying to-
thing too. So when you're in traffic, some of the games that I've played before, me and a friend of mine, we had a thing where at night we would try and guess what the car was coming at us by the headlights. And if a car pulled out in front of us down the road, we'd try and guess what it was by the taillights. And if we could catch up to it and find out for sure. But we're car guys. So that does two things. One, it's a good way to keep us up on what car is what. Yes, we need to go go-karting. That would be fun. Plan that event. Fucking plan that shit. Anyway, that keeps you up on, you know, just having something to do while you're on the road. But also, if you have those headlights coming up on your tail end really fast, what the fuck is coming up on me? Okay, well, that's a newer Charger. Is that a cop coming to pull me over? Is that, do I need to get the fuck out of their way because they're on their way to a call that's quiet, you know? Or I have this big truck barreling down on my rear end. Oh, it's a newer Dodge Ram. Why are they barreling down on my rear end? You know? So it does a couple of things too. Plus, if that truck, you know, like in that example, let's say that Dodge Ram comes up and slams into you and bumps you off the road. Well, I know it was a Dodge Ram. Well, how do you know that? Because of the structure of the headlights and the way it looked. And they just ran into me, ran me off the road, and that was it. I'm not sure what color they were because they had their high beams on and all this stuff, but now the cops know they're looking for a Dodge Ram that's damaged in the front. So that's one aspect, and that's one game you can play. Not only is it fun, especially if you're a car guy, but it's a good way to get up on what kind of vehicles there are. A mutual friend of ours had a game that him and his wife would play. You know, 3 cars back from that gray Sunfire. What was it? So, you know, the car that was 3 cars up from them. Oh, well, it was a Plymouth K car. Okay, well, there you go. You win that round. And that's another way. Not only do you work on what car is what, which is very important, but you also work on your memory and your awareness of these things. The other aspect is if you're going down the road, a game that you can play by yourself or with someone else is come up with a scenario. Okay, this car in front of me just started going erratic. They're weaving in and out of traffic. What am I going to do? This car behind me, all of a sudden they're starting to get aggressive, like it's road rage or something. What am I going to do? Let's say if this guy comes alongside me and he starts swerving into me, what would I do then? Right? What are my options at this point? Could I accelerate? Does my car have more horsepower than his? All right. I have a turbo. Let's say he has some shitty minivan. Guess what? My turbo wins. Is there a semi in front of me? Guess what? My turbo ain't going to do any good, but I got really good brakes and no one behind me. So I'm going to slam on my brakes. I'm going to let him just come over into my lane. Is he trying to do this on purpose, or is he just a dipshit not paying attention? Okay? These are games that you can play with yourself. They don't have to actually happen. That minivan with the soccer mom and her 2 snot goblins going to soccer practice, you know, they could just be pulling around you, going on their merry way. But okay, this person just pulled around me aggressively and started swerving towards me. That's the scenario I'm going to make in my head. What am I going to do to counter this? Those are some of the games that anyone can play to try and not only keep their mind sharp, but, you know, the variety of scenarios that could happen on the roadways. There you go.
Yeah, knowing your vehicles and knowing what they look like at day and night is very helpful in any description of anything that might happen. And I mean, and knowing how they sit and everything else like that. And I say that because there is V-beds that are out there, vehicle-borne IEDs. You know, you see a Toyota Corolla going down the road and it's squatting. Well, either they're hauling a lot of personal belongings, smuggling a lot of people, or they got about 400 pounds of freaking holy shit in the back of their car, and they're meaning to go do some business. You know, I don't know how many times they're like, okay, we have a BOLO list out for this vehicle for an IED, for a V-bed. Okay, well, what's the description? Well, it's a white 2000 Toyota Corolla. Are you fucking kidding me? Nope. Why do you say that? Why are you asking such a question? This whole country's covered in fucking 2000 white Toyota Corollas. Like,
Yep.
is there any other Is there any other distinct markings, or anything else like that? Nope, it's just white Toyota Corolla. You know how much my head was spinning back and forth to side, up and down, all over the place looking for a white Toyota Corolla because there'd be 50 of them beside me.
Yep. And that's not the first time I've heard that story either, because I had a friend of mine who was over there, and he was in the turret of something, whether it was a Humvee or a Striker or something, I don't know, but saw a vehicle, saw it was squatting funny, looked funny. He's like, dude, check this out. And they were looking at it. Guy goes around to the trunk, starts fucking with something, and the order came down, fuck it, light it up. And that car blew up bigger than shit when he popped it full of bullets because they were getting an IED ready in the trunk. So, yeah. And that's, a lot of people see that as like with the garbage on the side of the road and IED cars and stuff like that. Over in New York, we just had a truck ram through a bunch of people. And, that shit is coming here. It's something to keep an eye out for.
It's
already here. And I can tell you that because I went to a conference. I do a lot for working at a hospital. I do a lot of conferences that people are like, well, why would you go to do that? Well, a hospital is a soft target. And we're already having people attacking hospitals. They're moving away from schools and they're going to hospitals. We had the Davenport. He's not the assistant director, but he is a task force leader for anti-terrorism out of Davenport. He was an FBI agent that gave us a seminar on the Inspire magazine. The Inspire magazine is a jihadist recruiting magazine that is online. Do not go and look it up. Anybody who is watching this, do not go look it up. Otherwise, you're going to have black vehicles outside your house. But the Inspire magazine is telling people to buy big vehicles, put knives at the end of the vehicles on the bumpers, tape them somehow, sharp objects, whatever. Find a big crowd, run through the big crowd, and try to kill as many people as possible. And then after that is done and the emergency responders come, get out of the vehicle and start shooting. Stop it. And then I shit you not too much longer later, that happened in New York. So, I mean, it's already here.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And there's been recruiting offices that have been firebombed. There's been all kinds of shit like that going on, but they're just not going to talk about it. And we actually had a similar conversation about hospitals becoming more of a target because, yeah, schools, more people are going to start being armed there, and that's not as easy. Guess what? Good people armed fucking works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think if maybe some of these vets that need jobs or something, or just anybody that's can legally own and possess a firearm, I think that'd be a damn good job protecting.
As much as I would enjoy going down this rabbit hole, let's stick to this because we're talking about cars. It's somewhat pertinent because you've got cars can be used as weapons, cars can be used as explosives. I mean, if you're driving down the highway and you see some car that's big terrorist cell up in Minnesota, the little Somalia. Their friends of mine have been overseas and they've tracked a lot of people back to having Minnesota IEDs, not IEDs like driver's licenses and shit. There's a lot of them there. But I've driven by cars on the side of the road where I saw a car just sitting there squatting down funny. When I got closer to it, I could tell that like the rear spring was broken or something like that because I could see it underneath it. But going up to it, I got the fuck over in the shoulder and I slowed down to see what was going on. And when I got close to it, I fucking gunned it. I didn't want to be near that thing because one of the things to look for, fucked up car sitting on the side of the road, it could go boom.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things that we can go over. It would be impertinent to go over for convoy ops. We would have to do someday where we would have an open field to practice. But I mean, when you do convoy halts, there's the herringbone. And what the herringbone is that, and I wish I would have got the paper loaded up, but I'm not that great with this whole thing this morning. But you have one vehicle that will pull over to the left, and then the other vehicle will pull over to the right, and then the next vehicle does the same thing. you're causing a roadblock, and plus then you're pulling still you have a 360 security. We use those many a times. It's very effective, and it gives you eyes on to open what you need to see a possible IED or a roadblock. And it's easy to, when you take off, you just take off and you pull into line together again, because you're not pulling off at a huge angle. You lose track of the order. You just take off and you get back in line.
I'm sure we could find a place to set something like that up, so I'll keep that in mind.
I know a lot of you guys. I know a lot of you guys, and I know, Michael, you were talking about the vehicle, about your personal vehicle, and it drives me nuts. And I know a lot of guys around here have, some people have cars, but we live in a state where we have 6 months out of the year is summertime, 6 months out of the year is wintertime. I always believe you should have a 4-wheel drive pickup truck or something. I have a 1500, and I'm going to end up going to a 2500 or 3500. But over the years, while I have that vehicle, like with this one, I'm going to change out my bumper. I'm going to have a cattle guard bumper. I'll have one for the back. My shocks, I'm getting brand new shocks in struts put in, and I'm going to get Kevlar spike resistant tires. For that reason, not only because of being on the rescue unit, and if we have to pull an extra boat going into places where there could be stuff on the ground where I can get a flat tire, but even going down the highway, or if someone decides to shoot my tire, I'm going to have a little Kevlar protecting my tire. Also, rolls of film that you can get. They make them for banks and schools and stuff like that, but I've also demonstrated. But you can put them on your car. You can bulletproof your car windows with these strips. You can get hit with a baseball bat 30 million times before it even shatters. I mean, this stuff is amazing. I'll have to find the link again. I'll have to look in in my seminar book and find the link, and I will share that in the Zert page.
Did you share that with me one time? That link? I think you did.
I might have, and that would probably have been a couple of years ago. I'll have to look and see, Pat, but it's a clear film. It doesn't mess with your vision. I mean, it's pretty pricey, but I mean, it works. We went to the Moline police department's range indoor. The guy shot it with a 5.56, didn't do nothing. When they shot it with their sniper 308, it left a split. It finally kind of splintered, but it wasn't enough to where it would render you inoperable. You can still keep going, and it intact your glass, so you don't have to worry about getting glass in your eyes.
And I've seen similar, and I've actually installed similar in homes. This was, over a decade ago, so the technology is definitely better. But I mean, if someone was unsure, I had a bunch of extra windows, just small windows that I had already treated with that laminate. And I'd sit there and I'd hand them a hammer, here, bust that window. And the best they could do then was they'd bust out a hammerhead size hole in that window. And they could just keep going. And in order to actually bust the glass out of the window, they'd have to go all around the edge of the thing. And in that case, with the home burglary, it's a time thing, and that was, years ago. So the technology has definitely improved.
Damn, it's like even more red.
Oh yeah, that's
I'm right in the
nice.
center of that red. You guys can't hear that?
No, is it coming towards us on the east side?
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be heading our direction, but we got a couple hours yet. You got to remember, the storm's probably traveling 35, 40.
Wind.
Yeah, I'd say
True.
you guys got an hour and a half, maybe 2-3 hours tops.
Yeah,
before you
3
guys-
hours.
Yeah,
Depends on how fast it's moving.
yeah.
But-
and if it dissipates.
I mean,
Right.
we
But
spend so much money on our weapons, and I've talked to Pat, and I know Romeo said it. I mean, that's everybody's prerogative, you know, and everything else like that. I mean, I can still just roll with iron sights and be cool with that. But when Romy asked me about coming being on here, it made me think more and more of, well, the things that I'm already doing should be brought up too. Like I said, you know, I'm with the tires that I'm getting, and I'm finding the better shocks. Wanting to put the newer style bumper on there that's diamond plated, hardened, but none of that chrome fancy dumb shit. Just all black, so it doesn't make me too, you know, standoffish. But you can also buy tanks. The tanks, you can get the low profile tanks, or if you want the real big ones, and set them in the back of your truck, and you can have those suckers tapped in to where it'll go to your main fuel tank. So if that main fuel tank dumps out and you're empty, you can switch over to the other one, and the other one has about 150 to 200 gallons on it. You can also have a nozzle on there where you can save that tank, and if someone else needs gas, you can pump gas into them, as long as you have enough fuel to keep going. And I know Devith, when I met him for the zombie parade in Davenport.
Oh, Deviath?
Yeah. His Jeep has like 3 or 4 jerry cans on the back of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a badass Jeep.
Yeah, I mean that Jeep is he's ready to roll. I mean, he can put a turret on that sucker, and holy cow. You know, and you can go to the shops, the surplus shops, and you can buy the jerry cans. They have them for sale. They have water and regular jerry cans, and find a donkey dick, and you have plenty of fuel supply too.
Yeah.
Well, you can go over to Harbor Freight and actually pick up the jerry cans. You can also find them at Menards.
Yep.
That goes back to the appearance also, because depending on what you're doing, those fuel cans are an attractant also. You know, if you're talking about an apocalypse situation and you've got a small group of people out looking for fuel, and they see that, like in Dee's case, you know, you got 3, 4 jerry cans hanging off the back, that's going to be more of a target than the tanks you're talking about where they're inside the bed. So that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Well, I watch Last Line of Defense, YouTuber guy on YouTube, and he's got an overlanding rig, and he's got this like metal like dome topper over his Tacoma, and he sets his like jerry cans and stuff in there, and it's locked.
Yeah.
And you know, he's got a key, and it's really neat. So I don't know, you guys might want to look at his stuff and kind of see how his vehicle's set up. It's kind of neat that way.
Even mine, I have the roll up tonneau cover, and I'm actually going to switch that out to the roll out tonneau cover that's hardened, and it has a key lock at the back of it, because you can pry up the Velcro on the sides and still get into the side there if you needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the semis. You know, we could drive for 12 to 16 hours without refueling.
Yep.
And that is a perfect transition into other vehicles. So things like semis, boats, cars, planes, motorcycles. I don't like them on fire.
Well, be my head.
So now, one consideration I had a couple of friends that were getting their pilot's license, things like that. So as far as planes, I was kind of figuring if I needed to fly, I could just get a hold of them. But if you live nearby an airport, like if you're within 5, 10, 20 minutes walking distance to an airport, I know the airport in Ankeny, for example, has planes that are rentals. So apocalypse situation happens, let's say there's a big quarantine of the state because of zombies, okay? Odds are there's going to be planes in the air that will shoot your ass down, so probably not the best idea, situational dependent. But if you know how to fly, or you go, because I know when I was talking to him, because I was going to get my pilot's license back when I had my company going. I never had time because business owner. I had talked to them, and they basically said that they had a deal where an introductory first lesson, it was like $100 or something like that. And they'd take you up, and you could fly the plane a little bit and get used to it and learn some things. And if you have the opportunity to do that, great, do it. If you're close enough, just look into getting your pilot's license. It's $4,000 to $6,000, give or take. It's an investment, but if an airplane is going to be part of your plan, landing is nothing more than a controlled crash. You're very good at that controlled crash. The rest of it's all bullshit. It's all just be subtle in what you do. Don't, if you're sitting there and you got a hold of the stick and you're just kind of nice and easy, like don't fucking slam that thing off one side or the other because you're going to do stupid shit. That's all flying is, just subtle inputs to control the plane. Landing, that's the fucking important part. Takeoff, that's easy. Turn your flaps on, fucking gun it. Okay? So,
I can't wait for the replays on this.
right? So, if you're thinking about an airplane at all, that is a major consideration. Learn what the hell you're doing. I mean, you can go and you can get manuals. Like if you have a Cessna 180 or something, I don't even know if that's the right number. And they have a fleet of 3 rental Cessnas there that are all the same plane. Go get a manual on that. You can find a PDF anywhere. Learn the startup procedure, learn the checks to make on it before you take off, things like that. There's, like, when you're up in the air, they have trim, right? It's basically a little wheel right here on the one that I was flying in anyway. And that controls the little tabs on the rudder, the ailerons, and all that stuff. So if you're up in the air and your plane's kind of tracking like this, you adjust it then. And there's little things like that you need to know. So that's why I think if you want to use an airplane, that would be a good fucking idea to learn how to do it properly. Don't just go on YouTube.
YouTube everything,
Exactly.
Hey, the flight simulators, I mean, hell, it worked for a bunch of Hajis, so.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
Yep. If nothing else, and you can get into some good flight simulators like that. Yeah. And then actually going up in the plane to visually see the landing procedure, because we actually want to land the plane and survive. So, that's the main thing.
I know we have the airport's not too far from us down here, and they only have a couple like private Cessnas and one company jet, one Learjet, but right next to that airport is an armory that's full of truck drivers and their sister companies, the Mount Joy Armory. So they bring a lot of Chinooks and Blackhawks down here, and a couple little birds, little Kiowas, even though they're getting rid of them. But I've seen a couple of those being down there. So John Rainbow can fly it. I could fly it.
And, I have a friend that was getting his helicopter license. The whole reason I was getting my pilot license is because I wanted my helicopter. But it's cheaper if you have your fixed wing before you get your rotor. Otherwise, it would be like an extra $4,000 just for the rental time on the helicopters. So if you had your own helicopter, yeah, it'd be a lot cheaper. Just go straight into that. But yeah, fixed wing to rotary if you're doing it that way. A lot cheaper if you're renting the aircraft. So now the other aspect.
Kid is mad.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is she's 2 rooms away.
Oh wow!
I got kicked out of the bedroom because of monthly meetings.
Like,
So the other aspect is many of us are along the big river, the Mississippi. So a lot of time, winter time, this is bullshit. But during the summer, you see barges going up and down that river all the time. Could you be in that situation to where you're running from zombies? Yes, I would like to go skydiving. People have been talking about that for years. It was in the comments. Anyway, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane just sounds like fun. So anyway, those big ass barges. The one thing you got to remember about any boat, be it a little flat bottom, be it a big ass barge, boats don't have brakes. You have to plan way ahead. If you've never driven one, plan way ahead. You're not going to be able to just stop like a car. Your best case
No.
scenario is if you can hit reverse throttle and not rip your shit apart. But again, situationally dependent. Learn how to drive a boat. The bigger boats like that, though, the startup procedure, a lot of them are different. Some of them, as far as I know, some of them you can just start all from the cockpit area. Some boats are big enough to where you have to have people down in the engine room actually controlling those engines. Just depends on the boat size. I think most of our barges on the river, you can do everything from the cockpit. So
I'd
they'll have-
rather just keep to a small boat.
well, and it, like I say, it depends on what you got. I mean, if you've got, 40, 50 people that you're trying to evacuate with you, you're going to want a bigger boat like a barge, especially if you can drive your vehicles or something like that onto it. Like if it's got a flat carrier on it already and you can drive your vehicles on it, why the hell not? I mean, everyone's zombies. The crew is probably already turned. Plan on popping them, plan on taking the boat. Right? Now, a lot of the stuff, like stealing an airplane and stuff like that, it's not stealing if the zombies are out, because then it's just acquisition of pertinent materials. If it's not a zombie apocalypse, you're just going to steal an airplane. That's what I do. Don't steal shit. Acquire materials if you need to survive from getting your face eaten. Okay? Use common sense. What we're talking about here is not just stealing shit. So, they have, some of them just have a single, they basically operate off of sticks instead of steering wheels, at least the one I looked at. There were two sets of sticks that control the rudders, and then you had your throttles up in front. So throttles are simple: forward, go forward, back, go back, and however far you move is however fast you go. But moving those sticks is probably going to be a little bit different than someone's used to, like a steering wheel in a car. So
there's also buttons for thrust, or side thrust, and right thrust, left thrust.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, odds are you're not going to have a manual, but that's one of those things. If you have a lot of those in the area, because what I did was I was working in a town that's got one of the dams, and the crew of the barge was just kind of sitting there chilling. And I just talked to them back. Well, how's that thing work? What do you do with this? What do you do with that? And that's basically how I got that information. And the reason I did it was, guess what? I'm not far from this river. This river is a major transportation waterway. If I need to get the hell out of this area because of nuclear fallout, because of zombies, because of what the fuck ever, that's an option on my list. Yes, acquisition of necessary assets for mission completion. So,
Hey, just don't forget about us down south. That's all I got to ask.
Yep. Yep. But yeah, and then there's all different kinds of boats out there. You've got houseboats, you've got speed boats. Once again, don't steal people's shit. But if it's a zombie apocalypse and the odds are they've already had their face eaten, well, then it's not stealing their shit. It's surviving. So learn how to drive a boat if you live near the water. Just like if you live near an airport, learn how to drive a plane. Another option is motorcycles. Motorcycles are probably the most dangerous land conveyance you will pick, but it's going to get you better mileage. It's going to get you better maneuverability. You're going to have less cargo capacity on a motorcycle, unless you've got a Goldwing with a trailer or something, but even still, it's a lot more limited than having a pickup truck. That Goldwing is going to get 40 miles to the gallon, though, compared to that pickup truck. So you get that trade-off.
Yeah, but you don't have the protection as well as a vehicle as well. Like you give up, you're gaining that fuel, that miles per gallon, but you're giving up a lot of the protection. And what if you got to, someone tries ramming you?
Well, and that's the acceleration.
Daryl's been pretty good the last few seasons on a motorcycle.
The acceleration curve on a motorcycle, you can usually, if someone's after you, you can outrun them a lot easier on a bike.
Well,
I've been in situations where I saw someone coming over at me, gunned it, and I was gone out of the way before they even got over. Another thing that I like to do on a bike, if I'm not on the interstate, is I will rise up on the peg and I will put my boot in their fucking door, because that will wake someone up. And then if they want to get Brody about me with the boot print in their door, well, bring it, because I'm armed, and you just tried to kill me with a car. So it's very funny to watch when someone has an open window. They can't hear my bike. They can't see my bright red fucking bike, but they can see my fucking boot coming at their face through that window. That's always fun. They almost hit the car next to them. Not that I would ever do such a thing. But anyway, and not that
Hypothetical.
And we're live.
Hypothetical. This is all hypothetical. We've already discussed this. We were going to go through the legals earlier.
all of the scenarios
Hypothetical.
listed above.
Allegedly.
It's like everything is an opposition force.
Yeah. We're in hypothetical scenarios right now.
Yep.
Remember your 3 P. Be polite, be professional, be prepared to kill everybody you meet.
Yep. And always carry a knife in case of cheesecake or having to stab someone.
Or sport.
Yeah. All right. And that brings us to another form of conveyance that you will see all over the place. And that is a tractor trailer or a semi or an 18-wheeler or whatever the hell you want to call it. Now, I have a benefit to this because my grandfather used to have a trucking company. And I actually learned how to drive a stick shift when I was a kid in a fucking Freightliner day cab. So I know how to work one of those. I've seen the procedure done 100 times. I'm a little rusty on working the air brakes and startup procedures and all that stuff. But the main thing you got to remember, especially if you go from a gas car to a diesel, just like in my case, when I hop in the diesel ambulance, I always want to hit the fucking key and just start it. Because everyone hates the diesel, even though it's the coolest truck in the fucking fleet, even with the new crap, which I won't give my opinion on that. But anytime you get in a diesel, turn the key to the on position. You'll have a little indicator of some type, like on that ambulance or like on the Freightliner or something. You got that little igniting.
Usually wait like 10 seconds.
Yep. Because a diesel, unlike a car, compresses gas. It doesn't spark. So that glow plug has to start that process before the engine warms up. And that's another thing on a semi.
And if
you
it's
have
got air brakes, you gotta even after you started it, if it's got air brakes, you gotta let it sit there and gain air pressure for about 10 to 15 minutes.
Because the compressor on that engine has to do its thing in order to get your brakes working, in order to get all that. Just some of them rely on that air pressure to shift too. So, because I know like on the one that I learned on, it was a 10-speed, but it was 5 down, 5 up. So basically you had your 5 first gears, you pop a T-handle that was on that shifter, move back. And
that's called your high and low, your high side and your low side.
Yep, I don't know technical terms, but I know how to work it. So, start
If you want to get rope fancy, you get split stick.
Say that again?
You want to get real fancy, you get split stick.
I haven't driven one of those.
Yeah, the old 2 stickers or the old 3
Yeah.
sticks where you got to stick your arm through the steering wheel, hold on, and while you're shifting. Yep, my dad used to have an old Pete like that.
So, Pat, startup procedure. What do you do in the morning for your truck?
I do a
I'll be right back, my child.
Okay.
I do a pre-trip, which means you're just checking over, making sure the nothing's rusted out or cracked. These vehicles, like semis and stuff, they haul a lot of weight, and that puts a lot of stress on everything on the truck. Your springs, your shocks, your airbags, the motor itself, the motor mounts, just everything. So what you do is you got to go through and make sure that nothing's busted. Usually takes 10, 15, 20 minutes to do this every morning. And then you also do the same thing at night, and that's called a post-trip. So, but normally you just do your pre-trip in the morning, make sure you're good to go. And then you turn the key on and you let it go through all the procedures, and it goes through all the system modes and stuff, and make sure that everything's good. And then that's usually like 10, 20 seconds. And then just start her up. And then you let it sit there and idle, or you can manually override the idle with a idle. Can't think of it right now. But where you basically rev the motor up, and that will build up air pressure faster. A lot of people will say, "Oh, that'll ruin the engine." No, it won't. You can't ruin these engines. Pretty much. I mean, how many times you wouldn't believe how many times I've tried to blow a damn diesel motor up. It just, by stomping on the gas and holding it there, and it's just revving in the red zone, and they won't blow. Or at least I've never had one. So, but it's just they're pretty much damn near bulletproof. You know, your compressor runs your air brakes, which will also run your actuator on the transmission sometimes, depending, you know, if you have like a hydraulic clutch or something like that, or just simple stuff like that.
Now, when I was basically being taught to drive this thing, tell me if this is true on all trucks, because on the truck I learned, at least the way I was taught, was you do not mix the clutch and the gas like you would on a car. So you let off the clutch, then you hit the gas, correct?
For the trucks,
Yeah.
Well, what's
Because
funny,
I've seen at lights and such where a semi will kind of do that little hop as it's taken off.
yeah,
Mine did that, and I got informed abruptly by my grandfather, you don't fucking do that. So
well, with the trucks is you only need the clutch if it's a manual truck. You only need the clutch if you're starting out and stopping. We do what's called free float gears, and where you just shift it, the truck will shift, and you don't need to push the clutch in,
okay.
unless you go to slow down, or you can double up on gears and double down in gears, and you can triple up and triple down in gears, which means you could skip like fourth gear and go to sixth. That's called doubling up. Or, you know, you're at sixth or seventh gear and you skip down to 4 and 5. Another thing is to really know your truck and to learn your RPMs. Normally you can downshift any semi super easy at about 800 to 1,000 RPMs. So,
Okay.
and then you can double clutch, you know, learning how to double clutch and stuff like that. A lot of people are probably like, God, this is a lot of shit you have to learn. And it is, but, you know, like some jackass that, like, all right, like the example, just a few months ago, some guy stole a ready mix truck from Houseby and crashed into a house. You know, I don't know if he had any trucking experience. I was told by by someone who handled the case that the guy, he needed a ride. He was high on some kind of shit, and he didn't have the money for a cab, and he was right next door to the truck stop at the Houseby, and just decided to open the door up and check it out. And hey, the keys were in it, so he started up and took off. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did have one other thought. Does anyone have anything to add on other vehicles? Boats, planes, anything like that?
Dump trucks are really good for barricades, hauling shit,
Yeah.
you know, getting around. Like our dump trucks, if it's manual, what I've noticed is a lot of these trucks are switching to a lot of these manufacturers are switching to automatics now. And the automatics, you can run usually about 10, 12 hours before you have to refuel. But the manuals, like our manual Max that we have, they will run 2 days tops, you know, 2 12-hour days before you would need to I mean, shit, you could go the most I've ever ran one was 2.5 days before I refilled it. I mean, that's literally from full all the way down to a quarter, just under a quarter of a tank before I refilled this thing. And that was 2.5 12-hour, that was 2 12-hour days and about 4 to 6 hours of the third day. I mean, that's pretty damn good compared to what, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so, you know, if you got to take a dump truck or a semi, you know, if you don't know how to shift one, probably go with an automatic, but I would definitely get a manual.
Yeah, because we'd be out, like when I rode with Grandpa, we'd go from here to Green Bay and back without even stopping for fuel. Those things will go for days on a couple full tanks of gas. So yeah, if you're looking for the ultimate in range and busting through things, especially if it's a semi with some kind of cow catcher on the front, forget about it. Nothing's stopping you. I mean, that is the literal word. I mean, my brother used to always joke that, you know, work vans are like tanks in traffic, only they're faster. No, a fucking semi is your tank.
Well, that's why the federal governments stepped up their federal regs on us, because after 9/11, they're like, how else can someone, you know, a lone wolf come in and cause damage? The next thing was semis, because not everybody knows how to operate a locomotive, you know, like a train, but, you know, it's a lot easier and it's more common knowledge for, you know, someone to come in and they know how to operate a semi. So.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't really put those on the list, because you could steal a train or acquisition a train in an apocalypse, but if you're cruising down the tracks at 60 miles an hour and there's a train dead in front of you, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the railroad for a job, but I don't know the first thing about driving a train at this point. I've never done it. I haven't even talked to, I've talked to people who've worked for the rail, and the guy I talked to was a conductor, and he fucking loved the job, and he said it was cool and shit, but I didn't get any details with it. But Michael Bales put up an interesting comment, got me thinking, ultralight aircraft. You know, there's a lot of clubs and stuff like that. If you are thinking the plane aspect, that's a good way to learn how to fly too, because there's a lot less licensing and stuff with those.
I listen to Survivors on my audiobooks by James Wesley Rawls. I highly recommend that book and his book Patriots. In his book Patriots, it will literally tells you how to take down a fucking tank. It is amazing. But anyways, they use ultralight aircrafts in those, the 2-seaters, to get around. You know, a couple does in there, and he just kind of explains it. It's just a cool little story on how they do it, because it's like, fuck, I never even gave ultralight kind of aircraft a thing, or like paramotoring.
Mm-hmm.
You got a propeller backpack and a parachute. I mean, that's pretty nifty and interesting too.
Adam, comments on the tank?
Well, you know, we've already, some of us in our lifetime, we've already seen what happens with people in tanks and how much destruction. I mean, destruction. Well, one wasn't even a tank; it was a troop carrier, and that dude had one hell of a ride. But I mean, you know, you can disable a tank really well if you know what you're doing. You can blow that track, and tank's game over. Or if you somehow acquired some C4 or a stick of dynamite and you hit it in the back end of the tank, tank's out of commission. I was gonna say, when you're talking about the semi ramming things, I mean, you can look up the episode of Mythbusters, and they put a cone nose on this Freightliner, and it was just shoving shit out of the way like 20, 30 feet. Just cars, walls, whatever else. I mean, if there's a skill that you have, if we have anybody who is in this group, and the majority of us have skills, but if you're a welder or whatever, we can Mad Max the shit out of our vehicles. Even with when XP001 had his show on Discovery or wherever it was, and they zombified their vehicles for those people. I mean, just it's something that always, it's cool to have the sweetest ACOG or the laser pointer or the flashlight on your freaking gun, but you got to think of your mode of transport, and you got to make it last. And you can beat the hell out of it and get point A to point B. That's going to be your lifeline. I mean, your gun is going to be your second line of lifeline, but if you don't have the transportation, you're going to be screwed. Otherwise, the only thing you got is a horse. And I mean, I don't know how many people here can still ride a horse, or when the last time they rode a horse, because if the last time they rode a horse was like 15 years ago, you're hurting pretty bad when you get off that thing. and no, I'm not gonna rub it for you.
That's, I think, actually about how long it's been since I've ridden a horse. It was like 15 years ago. But yeah.
I think same here. About 15, 20 years ago, I rode a horse.
But the other thing to even think of is if you really look at it, not only vehicles, but also they're coming out with the side by sides. These side by sides anymore have payload power, they have speed, they have cabs. I mean, for Christ's sakes, we borrowed one we have every year here in town, we have a bike race around our main park.
Are you talking about the UTVs or like motorcycles with the sidecars?
Nope. The UTVs, the utilities, they're like Raptors or the mules and things.
Yeah, Polaris Razors.
Yeah.
I thought about those. I forgot to put those in the notes when I was going over this. But yeah, UTVs, four-wheelers, shit like that. Yeah. But yeah,
I mean,
they're getting to be pretty sick.
I was really surprised when we borrowed the one from the local shop here, and it was a T-Rex. And I was like, well, I wonder how fast this thing goes. So me and the lieutenant, we went around, and it wasn't even probably half a mile. And by the time we started off from where our medic tent was at, by the time we got wrapped around the park, we were hitting 90, 95 miles an hour. I was in shock. And you can go anywhere with those things. You can go in the woods, and it will climb. It will do anything you want.
Yep.
It's like a mini Jeep.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're basically what the Jeeps used to be now. Because Jeeps today are okay. So a thing that I was thinking on when we were talking about the jerry cans on the back of Dee's truck, his Jeep. If you think about Jeeps, 10 years ago, a Jeep like his would have stood way out. Nowadays, that's the way a Jeep looks. But when you're setting up your vehicle, you got to think of that. So 20 years ago, you had a Jeep, you had all outfitted like every Jeep in the group is now. Shit, you can go to the dealer and buy most Jeeps like that. These Razor Jeeps are a lot bigger and a lot wider now. But these Razors and UTVs and stuff, they have that narrow wheelbase like the old Jeeps used to, like the old Wranglers and the Willys and stuff like that. So yeah, you can get down a lot of those tiny trails.
Cool.
And even if you want to find a vehicle, actually, I have a page. They're looking like little Willys Jeeps, but they're UTVs, and they're like supposedly indestructible as hell. But if you really look, you can still find Willys Jeeps that are still brand new in their crates, and you can buy them for like $3,500. And it takes like 4 people to put those things together. They're all caught up pinned together, which blew my mind to realize that these indestructible freaking Jeeps that they beat the shit out of, you can tear apart with a couple of wrenches and put it all in a box and ship it off to somewhere.
Yeah.
And the bullets on those suckers, the motors on those suckers, you could shoot it and it'd still keep running.
Yeah, those things were beasts. All right, well, I think we've covered just about anything. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to go over, review? Any forgotten thoughts?
Don't be a fool. Staying cool.
On topic? You owe me a bullet.
The only thing I can say is that, and I know for me saying it, but don't make yourself stand out like like a red flag. Be aware of your surroundings. Beef up your vehicle. Whenever we get a chance, we do actually get to do hands-on whenever we're together, and we end up can do a vehicle thing. We can practice this going up and down either from the range or to the campground. And everybody who has the bow things or whatever. And if anybody's watching, you saw Pat and I have them up, and if you guys seen them at the ranges or anything like this, you can buy them for like $40 on Amazon. And we can make cool call signs and whatever else, and we can practice this all day long. We can practice the herringbone. Practice fives, 25s, or 25s and 50s, and that's pretty much only if you're looking out for IEDs when you get out of the vehicle. The only reason why I say that is there was a guy who, when we jumped out of the vehicles going to a meeting with a police chief in the area, and he didn't do his 5s, 25s, and 50s getting out of the vehicle, searching around, and he stepped on a toe popper and it blew off his leg. That shit can happen. People are going to get desperate times, desperate measures. Prime example, look at Book of Eli when they went to those two meat eaters' houses out in the middle of the desert. They knocked on the door, fucking false door trap below the door. You never know what that other person is going to do, so always be prepared to defend yourself and figure out a way to get out of a situation. And if you're ready for anything, then you're golden. You're one step ahead, and your mode of transportation is going to be just like your number one priority, like your gun.
Yeah, because a lot of us, I mean, some of us drive a long ways to these get-togethers and everything. And even if you don't, even if you're only driving 20, 30 minutes a day to and from work, you still spend a lot of time in your car, in your truck, in your whatever. Know these things, be ready for anything in it. Like I was saying before, going through different scenarios. What could happen if this? What could happen if this? Can my car do this, that, or the other? You know, have it reinforced if need be. If you're worried about something like that, it's the simple things that you don't think about, like sitting in traffic in your car, you know, just picking a lane. So if you're on that 3-4 lanes of I-235, whatever it is, however many lanes, I don't fucking remember now. I don't live there anymore. Fuck that town. But why would you be driving in this fast lane way over here if you know rush hour is coming? That's just going to block you in with all these other cars. Now, say a wreck happens up here. Guess what? You're stuck in that spot for 4 or 5 hours while everyone's trying to get in there and get that wreck cleared out. Whereas if you know rush hour is coming, be over here where the exits are so you can get off there if need be. Simple little things like that. Think about shit.
We came across a semi rollover 2 years or 3 years ago. And on I-80, just east of Des Moines, and it was out there by Stewart, Iowa, and it had literally blocked pretty much both lanes, but you could still get by, like on the side, and they had Life Flight come out. The only reason we were there for literally like 3.5 hours, and the only reason we were stopped is because the people in front of us were stopped because they didn't know what to do. The cop was like, drive through, you know, like go by. And they're like, oh, I got to film this. And it was so stupid. Like I wanted to beat the shit out of so many stupid fucking people right there. I mean, it just gets to me how many people just want to stop and be like, World Star.
Yeah. You've got people playing on their phones, trying to videotape that shit. And then you've got people, too, who, you know, as far as their mental capacity goes, they're not allowed to drive around that shoulder. You know, that shoulder is not for driving on, so I can't go around. So you're going to be stuck behind these people who don't know any better.
I just think it's kind of ironic. Pat's stuck at an accident site because of somebody trying to film the accident.
Okay, yeah, that is funny.
Damn it, quit pointing out my flaws.
Oh, you're the one that explained it. I just happened to catch it.
Yeah, I know. It was, I even took a couple pictures. It was kind of cool, though, the way they did the rescue. Because the semi driver actually, when they rolled over, the thing about semi trucks is they have air ride seats, so you're constantly doing this all day. you know, depending on how rough the road is. But if you hit a bump like bad enough, it just shoots you up into the damn ceiling. And he had hit his head on the door. There's the way they're designed on the inside. He had hit his head on the inside, snapped and broke his neck, and died instantly during the rollover. But it was neat seeing how they rescued him from that way, and when they brought the semi back up from the side, you know, that was really cool. That was interesting on how first responders handled that situation, because they were top notch, and I think they did a really good job, you know. But it just sucks we have stupid people that would rather sit there and block up miles and miles of a federal highway just to film shit.
Well, and those are the people in the zombie apocalypse that we're going to be trying to fend off from eating our face because they don't know any better.
In a zombie apocalypse, I'm just going to shoot the sons of bitches.
So that's all I had for this chat. I think if everyone else is done, we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody else who's watching this that's on the page, and you guys want to do all the hands-on training and stuff like that, I can get with Romeo and we can put something together and we can go through and go through some things, and I can set up props because, like I said, with convoy ops, it's for people who have not really done a whole lot of it. And I know there's some people in the group that have not been in the military, and there's some people that have been in the military that may not have done a whole lot of convoy operations. I've done a lot of convoy operations. You know, within the 9.5 months being in Afghanistan, we did about 6,000 missions. So we were always constantly on the go. You learn to watch out for things, and you learn how to deal with things in a situation under stress. I wish we had blanks. We can light off and make it a stressful situation. But we can shoot all day long as much as we can. But if convoy operations, especially since we're all spread out throughout the state, that's something that we should also be able to working on any time that we're together, thinking of new ways. Because
I think we should do something like that. I think that's a really good idea, Adam.
The reason why I say this, and it bugs me still to this day, I made a stupid move, career choice when I got out of the Army, and when I got out of the Guard, when I got back home in 2012. I ended up missing it so much, I turned around and I went back in. Except when I went back in, I took a position with the water dogs. Yeah, Polly Shore, whatever. And it killed me because they were a non-combat group, but they were truck drivers. There were truck drivers, mechanics, and there was water purification guys. Well, you got to take the shit somewhere. You got to drive it. And when the platoon sergeant sat there and said, "Hey, what things can we do to better off on training so we're not just sitting here?" I went up and I said, "How about we start doing convoy operations and react to contact in a convoy situation?" I said, "You know, what happens if we end up getting called tomorrow and we go back to Afghanistan and we're freaking cruising down the road. Next thing you know, we get stuck with an IED and we're waiting for EOD to roll, and it's going to take about 12.5 hours. Next thing you know, we're freaking getting contact. We have to learn how to react to that, push in and fight." And he straight up looked at me with straight dead cold eyes and said, "We'll never do that." And it literally fucking floored my ass to hear him sit there and say, "We'll never do that." And my next words to him were, "Well, you better have enough body bags because you're just going to kill your whole entire platoon." And it may sound, I may sound like an arrogant asshole, or I may sound like a dickhead or anything like that, but you can't shoot if you're dead. And if you're driving down the road and you're in a convoy and shit fucking happens and you don't know how to react to it, you're fucked. 100% fucked.
Yeah. And we spend a lot of time on the range, and square range is useful for some things, but it's just like when you see, like back when I was in martial arts, you've got shadow boxing, you've got bag work, you've got sparring, and then you get in the ring. Dry fire is the same as shadow boxing. It's practicing your basic movements. And then you move up to your bag work. That's your square range. You've got sparring. Sparring, like the brief demonstration we did over with Quad Cities, where, Pat, I had you charge at me, and I told you, if you can jam this stick into my balls before I pull this gun out and say bang, it was a blue gun. But, you know, if you remember that shit, that is practicing for actual real life situations. That 21-foot rule is bullshit if you move. We proved that. But if you're square range mentality, you're just going to stand there. And that's part of what
you gotta be on the move.
Yeah, and that's part of what doing stuff like this, like actual practicing of tactics, and like the class coming up in a couple of, it's like a month away now almost.
Yeah, it's just
yeah, it's coming
like
up close.
5,
I mean,
4.5 weeks
that's
away.
moving. That's not just standing there square range. It's actual getting out and doing other stuff, like working around vehicles. We had a vehicles class down in Missouri, and it was the same kind of shit. It was, you spend a lot of time in your car, know what to do in situations. If your car is down, where are you going to go? How are you going to get out? What are you going to hide behind? You know, it's all those considerations that a lot of people don't take. They figure, you know, I've got my gun, I go to the range once a month minimum in practice, go more. You know, I'm good to go. Well, no, you're not, because you're getting that. I am at a range where I can't draw from my holster, you know, if you're one of the indoor ranges. So I'm just practicing this all day. All right. Well, that's bad. You're not used to drawing from, say, laying on your back because you got knocked down. If you're not used to drawing from in your car, right? One of my considerations when I had my HK, when I was in Des Moines back and forth all the time.
We got
right?
Hill. Sorry,
Oh.
I just had to show you. Yeah, that's
Weather report. Okay.
yeah.
The holster I used, it was called Check 6. It's a great holster for a vehicle because it sits, instead of sitting vertically like this, it sits at a deeper angle like this. So when you're sitting in your car, you can pull your gun straight up. You don't have to move around or twist or anything. You can reach your gun, you can pull it straight up because the angle it sits at. It's a little awkward of a draw out in public, but if you're spending a lot of time in your car, it's a perfect holster. And then you just work around when you're out in public. Because if you happen to be sitting in a restaurant and someone comes in, you don't have to fiddle around. You're sitting, you can draw your gun. Things like that you should consider when you're looking at your vehicle, when you're looking at how you carry your shit in your car, all right? If you carry, like if I carry my snub nose up in the front, not quite 12 o'clock, but like about the 1:30-ish, it's easy enough to draw from that position while I'm in the car. So it's all those considerations.
What happened to your beans, Frank?
Keep your booger hook off the trigger. That's what happened.
Frankie Beans.
my
Frankie
safety.
Beans.
Yes, I believe we would probably require an RSO at the training in June. Separate comment. All right. Well, that's all I got. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up for tonight. Next month, our chat is going to be about health. Not just your personal health, not like first aid health, but we're talking about dietary health, supplements, financial health, mental health, things of that nature. Overall, your health. So tune in.
Oh my God, you're going to be on everybody's ass like you are mine.
Fucking right I am. I am not without sin, all right? But in moderation, okay? Yes, I have a bottle of Coke down in the fridge. Yes, I had some ice cream today. I didn't sit there and eat the entire gallon of fucking ice cream, though. Moderation.
Hey, you know what? I've been working on myself, and due to the depression I had. But when I came home, I was a leaned out 215, and with all the bullshit that I had in the last years, I got myself up to 350. I'm down 29 pounds. I got 5 guys on our fire department, volunteer fire department, that are now working out with me.
Good.
Because we don't want to be shown up, we don't want to, gas out with these guys. We come into town and fight fires with them, and they're professional. They're a professional service, and they get to work out all the time. So, and I see the training. I see the training on some of these things, on some of the pictures, and I look at some of the guys, and I'm like, I don't know.
Because
You gotta.
I've been on a lot of calls where it's a 40, 45-year-old dude, overweight, out of shape, cardiac arrest, and that's it. He's dead because he didn't take care of himself. And yeah, if we're in situations like this where we need to run around, it's easy to get gassed out, especially like in our situation. I had a call it was 2 years ago, where we had all trucks on scene. We had a massive response to this call, and I was the guy running in between the different staging areas because I was the one fit enough to do it. And I was in shit shape 2 years ago. So yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but I put up on my Facebook the other day that picture of my workout pants that I got before I left when I started doing this shit. And then the ones I'm wearing now, and there's like 2 inches on either side. It's a process. You don't get out of shape overnight, and you don't get in shape overnight. But you got to put in the work. If you're at least putting in a little bit of work, you're doing better. And that's basically the point of it. And yeah, I have supplements and the food intake that deals a lot with mental health too. But we'll get into all that next month.
Hey, I do want you next month to post some of those links on some of the stuff that you're doing and where we can get some of the other stuff, because I do love that coffee. God, that coffee is awesome.
Yep. And I will do that. I will, when I set up to make the comments and everything for the event itself, I'll go ahead and put some of those links in there. And yeah, I'll get all that ready. You guys want to say your goodbyes? Final thoughts? Parting wisdoms?
Yeah.
All right, Adam, we'll start with you. Let's go down the list.
I'm working on it. No.
You're working on it that hard, you're gonna shit yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
he's at home. He's got his shorts on.
Yeah.
You're not gonna give it up about insurance,
Then we'll have another video of his son breaking in while he's taking a poop.
Oh man, he does that a lot too. He's got to be close to dad. I'm the hero, so he loves me.
Yeah, well, I have a 4-legged son that thinks he needs to be up my ass the entire time too. I ain't joking. He's over here on the bed chilling. He's like, "Come on, Dad, let's go to bed, fucker." But no, I guess the only thing to bring up, parting wisdom, wise fire chief told me once, you build a bridge, you're known as a bridge builder. Suck a dick, you're known as a cocksucker for the rest of your life. That's about the only thing I got. For many people, I'm too sorry. Not really.
Oh, that's good.
Pat, you're next.
Oh, shit. My dad's best wisdom was don't ever have sex with 7 women in one day.
Mike, you got something pertinent to our chat.
No, this one I'm actually out on. I'm still trying to recover from my last one. I'm trying to figure this one out, but
well, I have a 4-legged daughter downstairs. She sleeps up. Dog doesn't leave the couch unless I'm cooking. So when she finally came in and she found the couch, she fell in love. That's where she stays until it's bedtime. Then she comes up and sleeps on her cushion. So yeah. My niece dog, though, she's a pain in the ass. She follows me around everywhere. It's like she knows I'm allergic to her. All right, yeah. Vehicles, you spend a lot of time in them. You're driving all day, every day. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Put your fucking phone down and drive your vehicle. Keep your head up. Keep your eyes on the road. Anytime you go to get in your car, assess yourself. You know, can I get to my gun easy? Can I get to this easy? Think about making things streamlined when you're getting in your car. Because if you're driving lots of miles to come see your roamie, I want you safe. Y'all be good. Have fun. We'll see you on the next one.
Pull
Good
over
night,
from
guys.
emergency vehicles.
Yes. If lights and sirens are going, get the fuck out of our way. Don't just sit there like a dipshit. Thank you. Good night.